Chapter 2265. At this moment, the news of Xia Ping becoming an immortal sage and obtaining first place in the grand tournament of Saint Lands spread like wildfire. Many of the foreign races knew about this. The news of Xia Ping becoming an immortal sage, after cultivating for only a few decades, shocked many of the sages. In fact, such news could not be hidden at all. Impossible. A human reaching the immortal sage after cultivating for only a few decades? What a joke. Since when was it so easy to break through to the immortal realm? Even if humans are born with a faster cultivation speed, it's still impossible. Some of the foreign races thought that it was fake news after hearing the news. The immortal realm was a realm that countless living beings dreamed of reaching. It was an extraordinary realm. Countless living beings were stuck at the bottleneck of the immortal realm, unable to break through. However, there was actually a human who was so monstrous. Who would dare to believe such a ridiculous thing? This matter is true. There is no doubt about it. We paid a huge price to obtain this information from within the human race. A foreign race sage said in a deep voice. His expression was extremely ugly. That's right. I couldn't believe it at first too. However, after confirming it again and again, it's true. Who would have thought that there would be such a monstrous human? This is unbelievable. The human race is getting scarier. In the ancient times, the human race was still a weak race. Although there were a few stronger ones, they were still weaker than us. However, after such a long time, the human race has surpassed us. Now we are becoming the #1 race in the universe. Many of the foreign races sighed. They were fearful of the human race. As time passed, the human race's strength continued to rise. Now they were almost like the overlord race. Are you kidding me? Since when did the human race become #1? Don't boost the morale of others and belittle your own. A foreign race sage shouted angrily. He felt that such words were too presumptuous. That's right. It's just the appearance of a human genius. What's the big deal? You make it sound like there are no geniuses in our race. What a joke. However, you have to admit that the human race is scary. Such a genius is not the only one. There are countless of them. The previous human genius was the Dark North Sage. Look at him now. He has already reached the invincible realm. No one can suppress him anymore. That's right. Dark North Sage is indeed a terrifying human. I've chased after him several times. But not only did I fail to kill him, I even made him stronger and stronger. Now I'm no match for him at all. If we meet again, I'll have to run. Some of the sages recalled the monstrous genius of the previous era, the Dark North Sage. They had suffered many losses at the hands of the Dark North Sage, and many of their companions had even died at his hands. I heard that the human monster is the disciple of the Dark North Saint. His name is Xia Ping. A saint of a foreign race suddenly revealed Xia Ping's identity and background. What? That Dark North Saint actually has a disciple. And such a terrifying one at that. How long has it been? Previously, it wasn't enough for this fellow to bring calamity to our various races. To think that he actually taught such a disciple. Are you kidding me? Is this talent passed down from generation to generation? Hearing this news, the sages of the foreign races clenched their teeth, and their faces darkened. Although they were unwilling to admit that the human race was the overlord, they had to admit that the threat posed by the human race was getting stronger and stronger. In truth, if it wasn't for the threat of the abyss demons, they would have joined forces to suppress the human race's development. How could they have waited until now? However, even with the presence of the abyssal demons, the conflict between the foreign races and the human race was still ongoing. Both sides had a blood feud, and when they met, they would definitely not show mercy. Especially when it came to assassinations of the human race geniuses, they never stopped. Every year, many of the human race geniuses would die at the hands of the foreign races. Now that such a terrifying monstrous genius had appeared in the human race, it made them feel as if there was a blade on their backs, and they felt an unprecedented threat. We cannot let the human race have another Dark North Sage, an invincible sage. Otherwise, the human race will really become the #1 race in the universe in the future, and we can only look up to them. Some of the foreign race sages were filled with killing intent as they clenched their fists. The human race had many invincible sages to begin with, and they were the pinnacle of the universe. With one more, it meant that the strength of the race would increase by a little, and their battle prowess would also tilt by a little, and the resources of their race would be greatly reduced. This was related to the future of all the major races. If the human race had another invincible sage, they might not be able to eat or sleep in peace, and they would never have a chance to rise again. That's right. A peerless genius like the Dark North Sage must not appear again. The human race is already terrifying. If another invincible sage appears, we will not be able to survive. We must kill that human Xiaoping and eradicate this huge threat. Many of the foreign race sages reached a consensus to kill the human race Xiaoping and eradicate this future threat. The problem is how to get rid of him. Now that he is hiding in the holy land of Taichu, it is too difficult to enter the human race's lair to kill him. It is almost impossible, some of the foreign race sages said in a low voice. It doesn't matter. We can't kill him in the holy land of Taichu, but we can do it in the outside world. Let's wait and see. After all, this kid is a peerless genius, an immortal sage. If he wants to go further, he must go to the mystic area to look for opportunities. That will be our chance. Indeed. Once this kid appears in the mystic area, it will be easier to kill him. Maybe we won't have to pay a big price. But this kid is also a genius favored by the human race. I'm afraid he has countless life-saving treasures. That's nothing. It doesn't matter how many life-saving treasures he has. If we go all out and set up traps, this kid won't be able to escape. Set up an inescapable net. Once Xiaoping appears in the mystic area, immediately report his whereabouts. Then we will join forces and kill this kid. We must not give him any chance to escape. Many of the foreign race sages were full of murderous intent. Their desire to kill Xiaoping was boiling. If there was a chance, they would never let Xiaoping live. This was a life-and-death battle between races, a struggle for survival. There was no room for mercy. For a moment, the intelligence network of countless races in the entire mystic area began to move, and began to closely monitor. If Xiaoping's trace appeared in the mystic area, it would immediately be known by the intelligence network of all races. It could be said that at this time, Xiaoping's name had been put on the kill list of the sages of the major races. Chapter 2266. It wasn't just the foreign races that knew about Xiaoping's ascension to the immortal sage level. Among the human race, especially the Eastern Cosmos where Xiaoping came from, this news had shocked the Eastern Cosmos sacred class sects. The birth of an immortal saint was enough to change the power structure of the Eastern Cosmos. You must be joking. Didn't Xiaoping join Qingquan not long ago? Based on my impression of him, he's just a young lad. To think that he would actually advance to the sempiternal realm. Are all youngsters so formidable these days? Many elders were dumbfounded when they heard this news. They had cultivated for over 10,000 years, and some had even cultivated for close to 50,000 years. Their lifespans were about to run out. However, they were still stuck in the lightning tribulation realm, and were unable to break through. Yet, a young lad who was only in his 20s had actually managed to advance to the sempiternal realm. This was truly a huge blow to them. Comparing oneself to another was truly infuriating. Previously, it was said that Xiaoping is a peerless genius, and has a chance to become a sage. However, it's just a chance. There are too many geniuses in the Eastern universe who have a chance. That is indeed the case. Who could have expected that kid to advance to the sempiternal realm in the blink of an eye? That is beyond our imagination. The Qingquan faction has really picked up a treasure this time. You've only been in the holy land of Taichu for a year, and you've already reached the immortal realm. Is the holy land of Taichu really that powerful? Could it be that there is some kind of treasure that can help him step into the saint realm? Don't be ridiculous. There are many geniuses who enter the holy land of Taichu, or the Palace of Darkness every time, but only a few of them can reach the immortal realm. It can only be said that Xiaoping is not ordinary, and cannot be compared to ordinary people. He is a rare genius. How did the Qingquan faction manage to pick up such a treasure? I can't accept this. The Heaven and Earth sect is so lucky. They probably used up all the luck of their lives. Some elders from great sects gnashed their teeth in anger, feeling endless jealousy towards universe sect's luck. Why did universe sect take in such a monster disciple? Why didn't such a good thing happen to them? There's something that I feel is very serious. Originally, the Qingquan sect had 3 sages. Now there's another one. Wouldn't this be bad? Wouldn't the Qingquan sect be able to ascend to the heavens? One sect with 4 sages. It's not as simple as just having 4 sages. Given how Xia Ping has already reached the sempiternal realm at such a young age, there's a good chance that he'll be able to reach the invincible realm as well. Looks like the Eastern cosmos will be dominated by the Qingquan sect in the future. No one will be able to shake it in the slightest. The big shots of the 5 elements sect, the soaring cloud sect, the flying celestial sect, and the other saint-class sects of the Eastern universe were discussing this. They were completely shocked by this sudden news. They were extremely helpless, knowing that the heaven and earth sects' rise couldn't be stopped, no one able to suppress it. In the past, these forces had once had many conflicts with the Qingquan faction, and it was even to the extent that there were huge conflicts of interest between them. However, after learning about this matter, all of them retreated and did not dare to fight against the Qingquan faction. Within the Qingquan sect, many elders, supreme elders, sect leader, and many elite disciples also found out about this matter. All of them were so excited that they almost fainted. They felt an unprecedented joy. Haha. I've long said that junior brother Xia's future is boundless. No one can stop his rise. His future is indeed boundless. But who would have thought that he would become a sage in just a few decades? Who would have thought that? It's indeed unexpected. Ordinary people wouldn't have thought of such a thing. Junior brother Xia is probably a genius that only appears once in a billion years. Even in the entire history of the human race, he is an extremely brilliant genius. No wonder Dark North Sage would personally come out and make an exception to accept junior brother Xia as his disciple. Looks like he really has great foresight. Many elders of the Qingquan sect sighed. Previously, they had thought that Xia Ping would become an immortal sage sooner or later, but they did not expect the surprise to come so quickly. It was so fast that they couldn't even react. Now that our Qingquan sect has 4 sages, doesn't that mean that we can do whatever we want in the Eastern universe like a crab? Who would dare to disrespect our Qingquan sect in the slightest? An elder of the Qingquan sect was extremely excited. He stroked his white beard. Previously, those bastards from the 5 elements sect and the flying celestial sect spoke rudely to me. Now, after the news of junior brother Xia becoming a sage spread, all of them ran over to apologize. The speed at which they changed their attitude is boundless. A supreme elder was very proud of himself. Clearly, he enjoyed the flattery of the elders of the other sections. Such flattery made him feel very comfortable. He had not felt so comfortable for tens of thousands of years. Isn't that so? Previously, those bastards from the 5 elements sect wanted to fight with us over a resource planet. Now that the news of junior brother Xia becoming an immortal sage spread, they immediately gave up on this planet, and even came to apologize. Previously, there was a pirate alliance that was extremely arrogant. They frequently plundered the few star regions that our Qingquan sect ruled over. Now they are so scared that they fled overnight. They have been searching for traces for a period of time. The few forces of the Western universe that are bordering our Qingquan sect have also been making small movements. Now they have all stopped. They have even retreated their military camps 30,000 light-years away. Many forces from the Southern Universe, Northern Universe, and Western Universe have also come to express goodwill to our Qingquan sect. They have sent many gifts over. They are simply trying to stuff our Qingquan star to the brim. The gifts we receive in a day are comparable to the income of the sect in the past 100,000 years. This is too exaggerated. This is the threat of a sage. Moreover, junior brother Xia isn't an ordinary sage. Many of the Qingquan sect elders were very proud and felt very comfortable. They felt that the Qingquan sect's matters were unprecedentedly smooth. No one dared to obstruct them. Cough cough, low profile, low profile. The Qingquan sect leader coughed and said, although junior brother Xia has already become an immortal sage, and our Qingquan sect has 4 sages, the universe is too big, and there are countless experts. It is best not to be too arrogant. We must remember the profound lesson from before. Be humble, and be even more humble. He expressed that although the Qingkuan sect was strong now, they couldn't be arrogant. They had to win people over with virtue, and treat them with humility. Don't worry, sect leader. We are very familiar with such matters. We often win people over with virtue. Sect leader, I won't hide it from you. I feel that the Qingkuan sect only occupying 6 starfields is too small. Right now, we need to occupy at least 10 starfields to match our Qingkuan sect's status. Sect leader, think about it carefully. A giant over 10 meters tall living in a room that is only 100 square meters. Don't you feel sullen? It's not that we want to expand. It's just that such a small place can't accommodate us. That's right. This is how things should be done. If you don't advance, you will fall behind. We have to make use of this momentum to rapidly expand and strengthen the Qingkuan sect. The eyes of many Qingkuan sect elders shone brightly. For a time, the map of all the major forces in the Eastern universe started to undergo a world-shaking change. Chapter 2267. Meanwhile, Nangongwu, Qiuxiu Suji, Sumei, Jiangyaru, Churong, Yuqiqi, and the others had all returned to the Qingkuan faction. They had also received the news that Xia Ping had advanced to the sempiternal realm. However, because of Qiuxiu and Sumei's relationship, they had already known about this matter. Even after knowing the news, they were not particularly surprised. Now, this bad guy's name is probably going to shake the universe. He has only cultivated for 20 to 30 years, and he has already reached this level. This is indeed rare. I can't compare myself to this monster. Otherwise, I'll be angered to death. That's right. We also have our own cultivation steps. We just need to take it slow. There won't be any problems. Nangongwu and the others clenched their fists. Even though they could not compare to a peerless monster like Xia Ping, they were still geniuses themselves. After some fortuitous encounters, coupled with the large amount of spiritual medicine that Xia Ping had given them, they had all advanced to the Golden Core realm. For an ordinary person, this kind of cultivation speed was already frightening enough. Therefore, they were not discouraged and continued to cultivate step by step. However, because of their special relationship with Xia Ping, their status in the Qingkuan sect was greatly improved. In the Western cosmos, in a certain cosmos mystic realm, it was a trial ground set up by the Demon Divine Hall. Tu Linglong and Blue Luan were also at this place. They also knew the news of Xia Ping ascending to the immortal realm. Damn it! This bastard's progress is so fast. How long has it been? He has already reached the same level as a sacred beast. Even if we complete all the tasks assigned by the sacred beast temple, our ultimate goal is to become a sacred beast. Tu Linglong was indignant. She couldn't accept that Xia Ping's advancement speed was so fast. There's nothing we can do about it. This human is indeed a rare genius, Qing Wan said. Sister Qing Wan, why do I feel like you've been speaking up for him recently? Did something happen between you and this bastard? Tu Linglong looked at Qing Wan suspiciously. Qing Wan's pretty face blushed. She seemed to recall what she had experienced with Xia Ping last time. That was her first time. How could she forget such a thing? However, she quickly covered up such a gaffe. You're thinking too much. I'm just speaking the truth. I don't mean anything else. Forget it. Let's not care about these things. Anyway, we have to finish the task assigned by the Demon Saint Temple as soon as possible and get the Demon Saint's inheritance. We can't let this bad guy take the lead. Tu Linglong took a look and didn't find anything fishy. She clenched her fists and was full of fighting spirit. Even now, she didn't give up the idea of defeating Xia Ping, that bastard human. Eastern Universe, Blood Soul Continent. At this moment, Lu Rulan had silently returned to the continent where Blood Soul Saint was. She had also received news of Xia Ping ascending to Undying from the Universe Virtual Network. As expected of Xia Ping, he's really amazing. Looks like I have to pass the Blood Soul Saint's test as soon as possible and dig out the final secret of this continent. A cold glint flashed in Lu Rulan's eyes. Her current strength was different from the past. she had advanced to the Thunder Retribution realm. Advancing by leaps and bounds was not enough to describe the speed of her improvement. Her strength had increased by countless times. It could be said that no one in the entire Blood Soul continent was a match for her. However, the Blood Soul continent still had a large number of secret treasures left behind by the Blood Soul Saint. She had to take the risk to return to this continent again. This was related to her own growth. Once she obtained the final inheritance of the Blood Soul Saint, it would be a piece of cake for her to advance to the Sage Realm. The person who benefited the most from the news of Xia Ping's advancement to Undying was none other than Feng Hetong, who was still in the Heaven and Earth faction. As Xia Ping's #1 lackey, he was doing very well in the Heaven and Earth faction. Xia Ping was originally a disciple of a sage, so his status was rather high. It was enough for countless people to curry favor with Feng Hetong, who had a good relationship with Xia Ping. Now that Xia Ping had advanced to the Sage Realm, it caused a stir in the entire Heaven and Earth faction. Many disciples of the Heaven and Earth faction, and even many forces in the Eastern Universe, had heard of Feng Hetong's name. It could be said that Feng Hetong was doing very well now. His network covered the entire Eastern Universe. Everyone wanted to make friends with him, and at the same time, get close to Xia Ping. He was also very good at socializing. He was slick and handled all relationships well. There were even many humans from planet Yanhuang, who had the Corpse Beast's bloodline, and had become the Corpse Beast's dependents. There were now tens of millions of them. Through Feng Hetong's connections, they were able to enter the major saint-grade sects in the Eastern Universe. Of course, if all of them entered the Heaven and Earth faction, it would naturally not be a problem. With Xia Ping's reputation, no elder would dare to refuse. However, all eggs could not be placed in one basket. If one wanted to expand the forces of humans from planet Yanhuang, they must blend into the major organizations in the universe and become one of them. If these humans from planet Yanhuang grew up completely, they would be able to occupy an extremely important position in the major organizations in the universe. In this way, a huge intelligence network and relationship network would be formed. Moreover, these humans from planet Yanhuang, who were the dependents of the Corpse Beasts, were extremely talented. As long as they devoured a large amount of materials, they could continuously improve their cultivation base. They would not encounter any bottlenecks before advancing to the Sage Realm. Such geniuses were elites worthy of being cultivated by the major forces. Therefore, they quickly occupied a certain degree of status in the major organizations. Feng Hetong also named this organization Ping Tian Sect. It was an extension of the previous organization in the Cloud Continent. As Xia Ping's #1 lackey, he naturally knew that as long as he could hold on to Xia Ping's thigh, he would be able to rise rapidly. If he had the chance, he might even be able to advance to the Sage Realm. To be honest, after coming to the universe, he also began to have the ambition of immortality. The expansion of the Eastern Universe has been completed. Next, Ping Tian Sect will continue to expand into the Northern Universe, the Southern Universe, the Western Universe, and even the Central Universe. Feng Hetong was ambitious. If the many elites of planet Yanhuang could be released into every corner of the human territory, then the people of planet Yanhuang would definitely occupy an extremely important position in the human race. This was also an important plan formulated by Xia Ping. Although this plan was only in its embryonic form, as time passed, the power that Ping Tian Sect developed and displayed was enough to make any force tremble in fear. After all, the elites of each force were still limited, and geniuses were in the minority. However, the dependents of these Corpse Beasts were different. Apart from being unable to surpass the Corpse Beast Luna, they had almost no bottlenecks. They only needed to consume a large amount of resources to break through. They could definitely be regarded as the elites of the elites. Therefore, the human forces from Yanhuang Star are also expanding rapidly, silently, which will slowly bring a profound impact on the forces of the entire universe. Chapter 2268. The Holy Land of Taichu, Yanhuang Peak. Xia Ping had already built this mountain peak into his own cave residence. The entire mountain peak was covered with a tyrannical restrictive array formation. Even a slight move would affect the entire mountain, making it impossible for anyone to approach it. Now he was the only one on the entire peak. There were no other servants, only some intelligent cleaning robots responsible for cleaning up the Yanhuang Peak. It was peaceful and quiet. Beep! At this moment the system's voice sounded. Congratulations to the host. This time, you have angered a large number of disciples from the Holy Land of Taichu and the Palace of Darkness, causing a lot of hatred. This time, you have received a total of 30 hatred crystals. 30 hatred crystals. Hearing this, Xiaoping was overjoyed. This time, he set up this trap not only to obtain a large number of points, but also to obtain a large number of hatred crystals. Now it seemed that he had indeed obtained hatred crystals this time. Although it seemed that 30 hatred crystals were not as good as the previous times, with the 970 hatred crystals he had obtained before, he now had 1,000 hatred crystals. This had reached the threshold of the system's big gift package. Sure enough, as soon as he got 30 hatred crystals, the system's voice sounded again. Congratulations to the host. The number of hatred crystals has reached 1,000. You can get a big gift package from the system. Boom! The next second, the void cracked, and suddenly a black and white book fell into Xiaoping's hands. Xiaoping subconsciously took the book, and immediately a huge stream of information poured into the depths of his sea of consciousness. He also immediately understood the name of this book, the Book of Karma, and this book also had another name, the Book of Life and Death. No way, this is the Book of Karma, the Book of Life and Death. Xiaoping was taken aback. Of course, he knew how terrifying the Book of Life and Death was. It was a legendary artifact that controlled the life and death of all living beings in the world. As long as a living being was recorded in the Book of Life and Death, it would control the life and death of this living being, its lifespan, and everything it had experienced. His divine sense immediately penetrated into the book, completely refining it, and engraving it with his own soul imprint. Clatter! Suddenly, the book was immediately controlled and refined by him, and more information flowed in the depths of his sea of consciousness. As long as there is a karma connection with the host, even if the host escapes to the ends of the universe, the karma connection will not be severed until the karma is severed, the enemy dies, and the soul disperses. Ability 3 Karma Barrier. No matter how strong the enemy's strength was, it could be shielded and even reflected back, from cause to effect, and from effect to cause. This ability can only be used once every 2 hours. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoping understood a portion of the Karma Tome's abilities. He knew that this tome contained the laws of karma, an unimaginable power of laws. Every cause had an effect, and every effect had a cause. Even a saint who had jumped out of the river of fate could not escape the law of cause and effect. Vaguely, he realized that countless karma lines had appeared in the depths of the void, extending in all directions. Some were long, some were short, some were thick, and some were thin. They extended to every corner of the universe. These incorporeal karma lines were connected to his master, Dark North Saint, Nangong Wu Qiushu Suji, Sumei Jiang Yaru, Chu Rong, Yu Chichi Tu Linglong, Qing Wan Lu Rulan and others. At the same time, it was also connected to Luna, Tan Menglu, Little Dumbo, Chong Xiaoqian, his parents, relatives, underlings and others. There were even many people who he met by chance, and people who held grudges against him. However, the karma lines of these people were very weak, and could break at any time. And all of this information was recorded into the Book of Karma, turning into countless information. With a whoosh, the Book of Karma flipped to a page. Reincarnation Pen Book of Karma, Morning Staff, Hell Spear, Hell Golden Crow Bloodline. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. He felt that the system was slowly nurturing him to become the true Lord of Hell. These were all powerful and unfathomable powers that came from the most fundamental source of hell. System, are these treasures from hell? He asked. That's right. These are all treasures from hell, containing unimaginable power, the system answered. There is something I need to inform the host. The Reincarnation Pen and Book of Karma, these two divine weapons, are one of the components of hell's strongest treasure. 6 Paths of Reincarnation. What? The 6 Paths of Reincarnation is also a treasure? Hearing this, Xiaoping couldn't help but be stunned. Of course it is a treasure. The system answered. When the universe was first born, the 6 paths of reincarnation had yet to appear. It was also the strongest divine weapon forged by the Lord of Hell. Using his supreme power, Xiaoping carefully asked and found out some important information. At that time, the world of hell was very chaotic. Countless gods and demons fought for hegemony. Mountains stood in great numbers. Vassals rose up. Countless demons, asuras, gods and demons killed each other, causing blood to flow like rivers. It was similar to the current hell. At this time, an extremely powerful god and demon in hell accidentally obtained the reincarnation pen, book of karma, and other divine weapons of laws. It used its supreme power and rare materials to forge the 6 paths of reincarnation. This divine weapon was extremely powerful. It contained the power of laws, the power of the great Tao, and was indestructible. As long as the true spirits of the gods and demons under them were recorded in the book of karma, they would be able to reincarnate in the 6 paths of reincarnation forever. No power could kill the living beings protected by the 6 paths of reincarnation. Once they died in battle, the souls of these living beings would return to the 6 paths of reincarnation and be reborn. The result was obvious. With the 6 paths of reincarnation, the gods and demons under the Lord of Hell were able to be reborn through the 6 paths of reincarnation without any loss of power. After all, the gods under the Lord of Hell's banner could be reborn through the 6 paths of reincarnation without any loss of power. Therefore, as time passed, this army swept through the entire hell, and the god and demon under the Lord of Hell were able to be reborn through the 6 paths of reincarnation without any loss of power. Therefore, as time passed, this army swept through the entire hell, and the god and demon naturally became the Lord of Hell, the true supreme ruler. His name resounded throughout the universe. 6 paths of reincarnation? Hearing this, Xiaoping was also shocked. Indeed, as the system said, if he had the strongest divine weapon like the 6 paths of reincarnation, it would be equivalent to having an army of the undead by his side. Naturally, he would be invincible and invincible. After all, even the saints wouldn't dare to say that they were immortal, but with the protection of the 6 paths of reincarnation, they would dare to say that they couldn't be killed. Chapter 2269. But if it's true, why did the Lord of Hell die in the end? The reincarnation brush and the book of karma are scattered all over the place. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes, feeling that this matter was unusual. The Lord of Hell, who possessed the 6 paths of reincarnation, was practically invincible. Even if the human race, monster race, and other peak races banded together, they would not be a match for him. But now, he had actually disappeared without a trace. This was truly unbelievable. He could not imagine how such an invincible Lord of Hell could fall. That's simple. It's because an enemy destroyed the 6 paths of reincarnation, causing the infernal gods and devils to lose their immortality ability. Naturally, they were defeated, and in the end, even the Lord of Hell died in battle. The system replied, "What enemy?" Hearing these words, Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately asked. He was very interested in this matter, because there was actually an enemy who could destroy the 6 paths of reincarnation, defeat the Lord of Hell, and destroy the entire world of hell. This was simply an earth-shattering event. Just what kind of enemy could kill the Lord of Hell and destroy the 6 paths of reincarnation? Such power had probably long surpassed that of the old ancestors of the human race, and had reached an unimaginable level. Host does not have sufficient authority to answer. The system replied, indicating that it could not reveal this information. Right now, Xiaoping's strength and authority were completely insufficient. Can I really not reveal it? You can pay me with hatred crystals, Xiaoping asked, unwilling to give up. Host does not have sufficient authority to answer. However, the system still replied mechanically. It did not have any emotions, and was just a program. Even if Xiaoping threatened it verbally, it would not be affected. Damn it, it's this damned authority again. Hearing these words, Xiaoping felt extremely helpless. Because he had no way to force the system to answer these questions, he could only put these matters aside for the time being. In fact, Even if he knew these things now, it would not be of much use. With his current strength, even if he knew, he would not be able to do anything. Forget it, my strength is still too weak now. There's no point in knowing these things. Seems like I have to continue to become stronger. Xia Ping's eyes gleamed, and a desire to become stronger surged from the depths of his heart. He wanted to climb higher and see more wondrous scenery. It's about time for me to make a breakthrough to Sempiternal Realm Advanced Stage. He felt that it was about time for him to advance to Sempiternal Realm Advanced Stage. He had already digested most of the energy from the longevity pill and stabilized his foundation. In truth, there were no bottlenecks between Sempiternal Realm Primary Stage, Intermediate Stage, and Advanced Stage. As long as one had sufficient energy and resources, they would be able to advance their cultivation swiftly. Normal Undying Saints didn't have that kind of wealth, so they could only do it step by step, slowly devouring the universe energy for billions of years to reach Undying Peak. Or, they could go through life and death situations to fight in the strife zones and obtain large amounts of treasures. Only then would they be able to break through quickly. Back then, Dark North Sage had entered the mystic zones and fought against the sages of the various races. That was how he had risen so quickly, and his strength far surpassed his peers, becoming invincible. However, Xia Ping was different. He obtained the illusion race treasury and obtained large amounts of cultivation resources. His wealth was far beyond the imagination of ordinary Undying Saints. It was like a pauper and a rich second-generation heir who inherited the wealth of a billionaire. They were on the same level, but their starting points were completely different. Hence, he naturally didn't need to cultivate step by step. He only needed to devour longevity pills. Right now he didn't have much, but he had too many longevity pills. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to finish them all. While all up thinking of this, Xia Ping didn't hesitate. He immediately took out a large number of longevity pills from the Mountain River Pearl and devoured them. They were quickly converted into a large amount of magic power that flowed into every corner of his body. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. In the end, he had swallowed a total of 100,000 longevity pills. These longevity pills were like they were free. They rapidly entered his stomach and were refined by the sun furnace in his body. The impurities were purified, and only the purest origin energy of the universe was left behind. Rumble, the energy from refining 100,000 longevity pills was extremely astonishing. It was like a landslide or a tsunami. It crazily surged within Xia Ping's body and rushed into his 9 purple mansion spaces. The magic power in the depths of his body was also rising. In just a few breaths' time, it had reached its peak. This was equivalent to saving him millions of years of effort. If the Undying Saints saw this cultivation speed, their intestines would probably turn green from jealousy. The heavens were really unfair. Dong. After an unknown period of time, the surging magic power easily broke through a small bottleneck in his body. It was as if a door on his body had been completely opened, and all the restraints on his body were removed. Sempiternal Late Stage. Xia Ping's eyes shone with a shocking light. He immediately felt that he had finally broken through to Sempiternal Late Stage. The bottleneck that had been troubling him was immediately torn apart. With his body as the center, a terrifying energy storm immediately appeared, destroying everything in its surroundings. Layers of space were penetrated, and crackling sounds could be heard. It was as if even the spatial barriers were being torn apart. Fortunately, he was in Yanhuang Peak, and there were restrictions everywhere, trapping all the energy tides within this area. This prevented others from noticing such a phenomenon. I've finally broken through to Sempiternal Late Stage. Xia Ping was extremely excited. The magic power in his body surged rapidly. Every single purple mansions expanded, and every corner of his body was filled with a vast amount of magic power. It was at least twice as powerful as before. At the same time, his divine sense had become even more terrifying. Previously, it could only cover a range of 20 light years, but now, it had expanded to 40 light years. Even an ordinary near-ancient saint would not be able to match up to such a level of divine sense. Vaguely, Xia Ping could feel that his divine sense could easily penetrate through space and comprehend the vast power of space. It felt like the barriers of space were becoming more and more blurry to him. When he completely comprehended the law of space, he would be able to truly reach the level of a near-ancient saint. After reaching sempiternal late stage, the golden crow of hell cells in Xiaoping's body were also awakening at a crazy rate. Currently, he had awakened a total of 9 billion golden crow of hell cells. At this moment, the golden crow of hell bloodline in his body had become even denser. Every single golden crow of hell cell was like a sun, stored in every corner of his body. A vast power was hidden in Xiaoping's body, like a dragon in hibernation. Once it erupted, the power it could display would definitely be earth-shattering. Chapter 2270. A few days later, Xiaoping was still staying in the Yanhuang Peak of the Holy Land of Taichu. After a few days of seclusion, he had completely consolidated his late-stage sempiternal realm cultivation and integrated all his powers. I'm afraid I'll have to go to the Mystic Zone next. At this time he opened his eyes, which were shining with a glimmer of light. As a sage, only by going to the Mystic Zone could one grow at the fastest speed, because there were a lot of treasures suitable for the growth of sages in that place, but there were not many in other universes. Therefore, if a sage stayed in other universes, their growth would be very slow. Sometimes, there would be no change even after hundreds of millions of years. However, it had to be said that the Mystic Zone was also extremely dangerous. It was a place where tens of thousands of races competed for hegemony, not to mention the immortal sages. Even the sages of the ancient era and the medieval era died in large numbers in that place, as if they were completely worthless. It was a complete meat grinder for sages. But before going to the Mystic Zone, I'd better try my best to improve myself and prepare some life-saving treasures. After thinking about it, Xiaoping decided to log into the internal network of the Holy Land of Taichu. He had obtained tens of millions of points before, which could be exchanged for a large number of treasures in the Holy Land of Taichu. There was no reason for him to save them now. The so-called points were only meaningful when they were spent. With a beep, he immediately logged into the internal network of the Holy Land of Taichu. Immediately, he found that after becoming an immortal sage and joining the All Saints Palace, his authority had been greatly improved. In the past, he was restricted from exchanging for items and was not allowed to read the internal information. This was the great benefit of being an immortal sage. There are so many treasures. Xiaoping looked at the exchange list and immediately drooled. These treasures were collected by the human race from all over the universe. Even if you had the money, you might not be able to buy them in the outside world. In just one page, he saw many treasures that tempted him. However, he still suppressed his desire to exchange for treasures. Although 10 million points seemed to be a lot, it would only take him a few minutes to spend them. His current net worth was still far from that. Master, I think the first treasure to exchange for is the refining material that can improve your natal magic treasure, the Bell of Chaos. At this moment, the Green Ox gave his opinion. In the Saint Realm, the most important treasure is actually a treasure that can withstand soul attacks. Physical defense is secondary. The Bell of Chaos is already a low-quality saint artifact, yet it possesses great defensive power against soul attacks. It's a powerful treasure with great potential. I think Master should increase its power. It felt that the potential of the Bell of Chaos was endless. Hearing those words, Xiaoping nodded in agreement. That was indeed the case. After reaching the sempiternal realm, every sage would possess an indestructible body, making it very difficult for them to be killed by other sages. If it were not for the fact that he had a powerful magic treasure that could directly destroy the soul of a sage, he would not have been able to kill a sage of the same level. After all, even if a sage of the same level could not defeat him, he could still escape. Therefore, sages at this stage were extremely eager to obtain a magic treasure that could defend against soul attacks. As long as they could find such a magic treasure, it would be even more difficult for them to be killed. Once they reached this realm, all the sages would learn to hide. Only by living for a long time would they have the chance to advance to a higher realm. They would not be killed the moment they left their seclusion. No. At that moment, Corinne also jumped out. The Bell of Chaos is indeed not bad. But Master has already obtained a large number of sound rune stones and other refinement materials from the illusion race's treasury. It's more than enough for you to increase it during this period. In my opinion, the most important thing now is to exchange for a large number of treasures and increase the star's power. One had to know that the mystic zone was vast and boundless. No one knew just how big it was. Moreover, it was very difficult to perform spatial jumps in the mystic zone. The distance between cities exceeded hundreds of millions of light years, or even billions of light years. The distance was so huge that it was terrifying. If the star's power did not increase and speed did not increase, just rushing through the mystic zone would take a lot of time. Moreover, it would be very easy for them to be chased by other fast sages. Moreover, the stars was not as simple as a spaceship. Its current main body was the constellation vine, an immortal rank plant. If it continued to grow, it would become extremely powerful. Ordinary sages would not be a match for the constellation vine at all. Not only could it kill enemies, but it could also easily trap enemies. It was killing two birds with one stone. As for the Bell of Chaos, although it's indeed not bad, I think it's not too late to increase it later. There's no need to waste resources at this time. It also expressed its opinion. Bullshit. Seeing this archenemy jump out to oppose him, Green Ox was furious. What's a small spaceship? It's our first time in the Mystic Zone. Why would we need to go too far? Of course, it's enough to just wander around near the human encampment. We don't need spaceships for the time being. If we really need it, can't we find other sages' spaceships to help us? On the other hand, the Bell of Chaos is different. Who knows what kind of battle will happen? Of course, it's better to refine defensive treasures. Only then can we improve our life-saving abilities. That's the most important thing. Damox, what do you know? Corinne said disdainfully. What do you mean wander around near the human encampment? If we want to find treasures, of course we have to stay far away from the human encampment. We have to go to the outskirts. Such places have long been ransacked by the human sages. There are no treasures left. Only by going to some remote and extremely dangerous wilderness will we have a chance to find treasures useful to the sages. At that time, we need the help of spaceships. You can also say that you can stay in the human encampment, but you've already come to the Mystic Zone. If you want to be safe, you might as well stay in the Holy Land of Taichu. Why take the risk? You still have the nerve to say that you need to find other sages for help. What a joke. You're not familiar with the people in the Mystic Zone. Why would they help you? If they really help you, if you find treasures, shouldn't you give them a share? Don't you know how troublesome it is without your own spaceship? Moreover, Xiaoping has many secrets. We can't let outsiders know and leak them. You, stinky cat, you just want to go against me, don't you? Black Ox was driven mad and wanted to tear Corinne to pieces. Go against me then. Bite me if you can, Corinne said disdainfully. Okay. Xiaoping was speechless. He restrained the two old men. Otherwise they would really fight. He said, you two calculate how many points are needed to upgrade the Bell of Chaos and the stars. See if we have enough points now. If it's not enough, it's not too late to think of another way. No problem, Corinne and Green Ox said in unison. They did not back down at all and stood in sharp opposition. Chapter 2271. An hour later, Green Ox and Corinne carefully calculated and looked at the exchange list. After a strict review, they finally came to a conclusion. To improve the power of the Bell of Chaos, you need a large number of sound stones. Master already has a lot, so there's no need to exchange for now, Green Ox said in a deep voice. In addition, you also need some rare universe-level materials, such as Ninth Heaven Cold Iron, 100 million year copper essence, Star Stone, etc., to increase the toughness and physical defense of the Bell of Chaos. You also need Radiant Moon Soul Stone, Earthly Soul Stone, etc. These two strange ores can resist the power of soul attacks and greatly weaken the enemy's soul attack power. And if you exchange all the above universe ores and mix the ratio and quantity, I carefully calculated that you will need about 3 million points. He listed the cost of materials to improve the Bell of Chaos. As for improving the power of stars, It needs to exchange for 10 portions of water of life, a special water type or 10,000 layers soft crystal, a portion of Milky Way cinnabar, etc., as well as a variety of refining materials. Corinne also revealed his plan to improve stars. And if you exchange all these materials from the Holy Land of Taichu, you will need about 4.8 million points. In that case, a total of 1 million points is just enough. There's no need to argue. Xiaoping was very satisfied. As expected, it was right to cheat the disciples of the Holy Land of Taichu and the Palace of Darkness. Otherwise, he did not know where he could get so many points. Moreover, some special universe materials could not be bought with money, and his pearl of mountains and rivers did not have them. Green Ox and Corinne glared at each other, but they did not say anything. Since they had enough points, there was no need to argue. The two things could be carried out simultaneously. In the blink of an eye, another 3 months passed. Within these 3 months, Xiaoping used his points to exchange for a large number of treasures to refine stars and Bell of Chaos. The Holy Land of Taichu was very efficient. Often, these treasures would be delivered the next day as soon as the order was placed. They did not need to waste too much time in between. Boom. First was the Bell of Chaos. At this moment, it had been upgraded to a mid-grade sacred artifact. It had been integrated with a large number of sound stones, 9 heaven cold iron, 100 million year copper essence, star stone, and other rare materials, which had greatly improved its quality. Most importantly, its main material, the chaotic scarlet iron, had further refined its power. The entire Bell of Chaos was filled with dense chaotic chi. It was as if many mysterious restriction arrays had appeared inside the Bell of Chaos. These restriction arrays were densely packed and combined together, forming nomological patterns. It could be said that now that the Bell of Chaos had reached the peak of medium-quality Saint Artifact, its attacks were more than 10 times more powerful than before. Regular high-quality Saint Artifacts were no match for it. Furthermore, this attack was targeted at the soul. This was definitely a great weapon that could be used against sages. At the same time, its defensive power was also enhanced. As long as Xiaoping's soul merged with the Bell of Chaos, the enemy's soul attack power would be weakened by more than 50%. That was 50%. Even an ordinary high-grade soul defense sacred weapon would not be able to do this. The soul attack power of an ordinary sage would be weakened by 50%. Coupled with the soul defense magic power that he had cultivated, there were probably only a few that could truly reach his body. The reason why it possessed such a powerful soul defense was because of the chaotic scarlet iron. It contained a powerful chaotic aura, which was enough to isolate most of the power's corrosion. Secondly, there was the effect of the sound pattern stone. It contained the power of the laws of sound patterns. Sometimes an attack was also a defense. It possessed the power of soul attacks, causing the void to tremble. This way, it would also cancel out the enemy's soul attack power. If the Bell of Chaos advanced to a high-quality Saint Artifact, its defense would probably increase explosively again, and weaken by more than 70%. If it could advance to a Supreme Saint Artifact, it would probably weaken by 90%. This was the powerful treasure that could make the Bell of Chaos invincible. This was also the Bell of Chaos' endless potential. The Bell of Chaos is too powerful. The Green Ox was satisfied. He felt that this treasure was his greatest masterpiece. If his master, the Mountain River Saint, had had such a soul defense treasure back then, he probably would not have died in the primordial war. However, he also knew that this was wishful thinking. After all, he did not know where to find the chaotic scarlet iron. Sometimes, it was extremely difficult to find a suitable soul defense Saint Artifact. It could not be bought even with money. The stars have also advanced to the level of a mid-quality Saint Artifact. After understanding the power of the Bell of Chaos, Xiaoping immediately put this treasure away. Then he looked at the stars on the ground. At this moment, it had been refined by a large number of treasures and activated by the origin of the world tree. Its main body, the star's vine, immediately grew and advanced to the level of a peak mid-quality Saint Artifact. Its internal space was more than 100 times larger than before, and it could accommodate more things. The interior of the spaceship was like a planet vast and boundless. At the same time, its speed had increased by more than 10 times. Ordinary saint-level spaceships could not catch up to it. It was considered a busy transportation area. Beep. At this time, Corinne's voice was heard. The signal has been connected. We have received the signal guidance from the Tsangyue world. The spaceship has also passed the identity verification and is about to enter the Tsangyue world spaceship docking base. Boom! In the next second, the defensive energy shield of the Tsangyue world opened, guiding the stars into the world's docking base. Then it quickly landed. At this moment, there were many Tribulation Realm guards on the platform guarding this place. Another sage is going to the Mystic Zones. Why haven't I seen this sage before? Could it be that he had just advanced? He probably just advanced to the Immortal Realm. A new Immortal Realm? Is it Lord Xia from the Holy Land of Taichu? If it's Lord Xia, then it'll be incredible. It'll definitely shock the entire Tsangyue world. After all, who doesn't know his name? He advanced to the Immortal Realm after cultivating for only a few decades. His future is limitless. Everyone will try to curry favor with him. Shut up. Don't talk nonsense here. I've already verified his identity. It's not Lord Xia. His title is Fengdu. He seems to be a human individual sage. He hasn't joined any organization. Impossible. Do you see that spaceship? It's at least a mid-grade sacred artifact. It's priceless. Even ancient sages might not be able to afford it. This immortal sage probably has a strong background. Don't care so much. He's a sage. We can't afford to offend him. These guards discussed and gossiped about the identity of the newcomer. Of course, they were just using their divine sense to communicate and didn't say anything to let others know. They were just discussing in private. Chapter 2273. So, at this moment, Xiaoping arrived at Tsangyue world. He put away stars, and it turned into a blade of grass that quickly fused into his body. Stars that had been upgraded to a medium-grade saint artifact had completely turned into a magic treasure. It had reached one with Xiaoping, and could easily fuse into every corner of his body. Hello, Sage Fengdu. I am a staff member of Tsangyue world. At this moment, a staff member in black clothes immediately came forward. His attitude was very respectful. Through identity verification, he knew Xiaoping's title. Of course, it was just a title. He didn't know any other information. In fact, this also proved how important it was for Xiaoping to prepare a fake identity. If he arrived at Tsangyue world with his original identity, it would definitely attract countless people's attention. After all, Xiaoping's name was too famous. Many people called him a rare genius that only appeared once in a billion years. Even saints were paying attention to him and had high expectations. I want to enter the Mystic Zone. Where should I go? Xiaoping asked. Sage Fengdu, it's not far ahead. Follow this 10,000-kilometer-long tunnel. Once you reach the end, you will reach the transfer station of the Mystic Zone. There are 9 space tunnels built there. You can enter the Mystic Zone. The staff member in black clothes pointed at a huge glass tunnel. Okay. Xiaoping nodded. His body flashed, and he immediately passed through the transparent glass tunnel. Soon, he arrived at a vast plaza at the end of the tunnel. 9 huge spatial passageways had appeared around the square, each containing a tyrannical law of space. In midair, there were even more restrictive formations, set up one after another. Even if an immemorial saint descended here, he wouldn't be able to easily shake this place. At this moment, there were many saints gathered around the plaza. There were also a few lightning tribulation realm cultivators. They probably wanted to try their luck in the Mystic Zone and find a chance to break through to Saint Realm. Although the Mystic Zone was dangerous, there were many fortuitous encounters too. For the future, these lightning tribulation realm cultivators would still give it their all. Of course, 90% of these people would die. Hey newcomer. Hello, you came alone? At this moment, an undying saint in white clothes walked over and warmly greeted Xiaoping. Beside him stood 2 similarly young undying saints. Yes, I came alone. Xiaoping nodded. He had nothing to hide about this. I'm the raindrop saint from the Holy Land of Taichu. This is Goldwind Saint, also from the Holy Land of Taichu. and this is Dark Flame Saint, from the Palace of Darkness. The white-robed sage said his name, and also introduced his other two companions. Goldwind Saint and Dark Flame Saint also nodded to Xiaoping as a greeting. My name is Feng Du, a loose cultivator. Xiaoping also said his name. A rogue cultivator? Waterdrop Saint was shocked. Amazing! I didn't expect Brother Feng Du to be a rogue cultivator. It seems you are really amazing. Goldwind Saint and Dark Flame Saint were also a little surprised. In the human world, 90% of those who wanted to become saints were from the Holy Land of Taichu, or the Palace of Darkness. Another 5% came from ancient clans, or mysterious ancient powers. The remaining 5% were unaffiliated cultivators. They did not have any background or influence, and there was a good chance that they were born on some primitive planet. However, through their own talents and various fortuitous encounters, they had managed to reach sempiternal realm. Such unaffiliated sages were very rare, but even one of them was extraordinary and brimming with talent. Of course, because they were unaffiliated cultivators, they had no background and did not receive the best training, which led to their combat power being far inferior to the sages from the human race's holy land. After all, the human race's holy land had all kinds of ancient sages to guide them, countless secret manuals for cultivation, and large amounts of resources. How could an unaffiliated cultivator compare to a regular army? Not to mention that the humans who could enter the human race's holy land were basically peerless geniuses. They were no less talented than the unaffiliated sages, and some were even stronger. I was just lucky. I had some fortuitous encounters, and barely reached the sempiternal realm, Xiaoping said modestly. This time, I came to the mystic area because I felt that my cultivation path had reached the end. So I went to the mystic area to look for opportunities to break through. Brother Feng Du is too modest. Even if you come from a sage family and have huge resources, there is only 1 in 10,000 who can reach the immortal realm, not to mention those unaffiliated cultivators with no background. It is simply unimaginable how difficult it is to stand out. Waterdrop Saint sighed. He was from a sage family, but he still felt it was difficult, not to mention those unaffiliated cultivators with no background. Indeed, the more you cultivate, the more difficult it becomes. Brother Feng Du, you can be considered an outstanding person to be able to fight your way out of countless difficulties and reach your current realm. Goldwind Saint also nodded. At their realm, there was no need to be arrogant, because the sages like them were basically peerless geniuses, and no one was inferior to anyone else. It was just like the top students of various universities, who were admitted into Tsinghua University. Basically, every student was the top scorer or top scorer of their province. Everyone was a top student, and they were all on the same level, so how could they be arrogant? On the contrary, under such an environment, they felt more and more weak and ordinary, and their arrogance was completely obliterated. Indeed. After all, no one can be like Xiaoping from the Holy Land of Taichu, who reached the immortal realm after cultivating for only a few decades. His speed is unbelievably fast. Comparing oneself to others is really infuriating. Back then, I was trapped in the Thunder Tribulation realm for tens of thousands of years, and finally broke through after some fortuitous encounters. Dark Flame Saint sighed. That Xiaoping is indeed abnormal, but we can't compare with him. He's a monster that only appears once in a billion years. Who dares to compare with him? Waterdrop Saint shook his head. At first, I thought he might go to the mystic area to train since he had just reached the immortal realm. So I set out to try my luck and get to know him. It seems like I won't be so lucky now. Give up. Xiaoping has become a target of public criticism, and many races view him as an enemy. It is said that he is already on the bounty list of the monster race, elemental race, insect race, and other peak races. As long as he appears, he will be besieged and killed. Goldwind Saint waved his hand. If I were him, I wouldn't appear in the mystic area for a while. I would cultivate in the Holy Land of Taichu for a while, and only appear after the news has died down. Hearing this, Xiaoping was speechless. It seemed that he had completely underestimated his reputation. He didn't expect that a few immortal sages he randomly met would talk about him. One could imagine how famous he was among the other races. No wonder even his master was worried about his safety in the mystic area. Chapter 2274. Ahem. Xiaoping coughed and changed the topic. I want to ask why you guys are still waiting here. Why don't you use the spatial passages to reach the mystic zones? He looked at the Raindrop Saint and the others. Seems like it's Brother Fengdu's first time here. The reason is simple. These spatial passages aren't open all the time. In order to save energy, the spatial passages only open once every 3 days during peaceful times, regardless of the number of people. It only opened yesterday, so we have to wait here for 2 more days. I see. Xiaoping nodded. But there are 9 spatial passages here. Does each passage lead to a different place in the mystic zones? He wanted to learn more about the mystic zones. Although he already knew a lot of information from the Holy Land of Taichu, these sages were obviously old foxes. They might know something that wasn't shown in the information. Moreover, he was pretending to be a newbie who just arrived in the mystic zones, so it was normal for him to ask these questions. That's right, Goldwind Sage said solemnly. These spatial passages are separated into passages 1 to 9. Each passage leads to different dangerous places. Passage 1 is the least dangerous, suitable for undying sages to train there. Passage 9 is the most dangerous, requiring at least archaic sages to enter. He indicated that it was as Xiaoping said. Each spatial passage led to a different place. The mystic zones is a unique region of the universe. It's boundless, even larger than the north, south, east, and west regions combined. It's the true core region of the universe, Dark Flame Saint said. Compared to the mystic zones, the other cosmos regions are just the outskirts, a remote and desolate place. The true essence of the universe, and all kinds of treasures appear in this region. What's the situation in the mystic zones? Xiaoping asked. There are no planets in the mystic zones. There are only continents connected to each other. There are strange floating continents in the boundless void. Raindrop Saint explained. The distance between continents is extremely far. Sometimes, it takes hundreds or even thousands of years to travel by ship. Moreover, there are terrifying spatial storms that blow from time to time. Even immortal sages have to be careful when traveling between continents. One careless mistake, and they will die in the spatial storms. Other than space storms, there were also many cosmic disasters, such as doomsday lava, stellar explosions, black hole explosions, dimensional tremors, and so on. Once these cosmic disasters occur, even sages will die, let alone other weak living beings. Therefore, other than sages, it is very difficult for other mortals to survive in this place. Hearing this, Xiaoping nodded. This information was similar to what he knew. The mystic zones were a special region of the universe that was dominated by continents. Each continent was a unique continent that nurtured countless treasures. However, the Raindrop Sage did not stop there. He continued to introduce the mystic zones. In the mystic zones, the areas that can be called continents have a diameter of at least 1 million light-years. The areas smaller than this number are called islands. These islands float near the continents. They are densely dotted with thousands of islands, but they are scarce in resources. The bigger continents are extremely frightening. Some of them are called the main continents. They have a diameter of over 100 trillion light-years and contain a huge amount of resources. Our human race has occupied 3 main continents in the mystic zones. He showed a proud expression. That was because among the many peak races, they could only occupy 1 main continent. Some powerful races like the insect race and the demon race could only occupy 2 main continents. However, the human race occupied 3 main continents. This was a unique force. Many races fought for hegemony in the mystic zones. In fact, they were fighting for the main continents, islands, and other territories. The more main continents they occupied, the more resources they would obtain, and the stronger their race would be. However, if their main continents were taken away, their entire race would be exterminated. In fact, many races that were eliminated in the mystic zones returned to the normal regions dejectedly. Some even fled to the north, south, east, and west cosmos. Without sufficient strength, They could not survive in the mystic zones. Brother Fengdu. At this time, the raindrop sage looked at Xiaoping. After saying so much, I believe you know how terrifying the mystic zones are. This time, we immortal sages went to the first spatial passage. This place is only a remote place in the mystic zones. This place has very few resources. There are some islands everywhere, but there are not many experts. Most of them are immortal sages. Only a few near ancient sages would appear. This kind of place is very suitable for us immortal sages to train. Even so, if we are not careful, we might be exterminated by the enemy. Therefore, we need to form a small team. A small team? Xiaoping blinked and looked at the raindrop sage. Yes, a small team. The raindrop sage nodded. In fact, this is very normal in the mystic zones. It is too dangerous to be alone. Only by forming a small team and having companions to take care of each other can we increase our chances of survival in the mystic zones. In fact, Brother Goldwind, Brother Darkflame, we did not know each other before. We only got to know each other after coming here. Although we met by chance, we felt good together. Therefore, we decided to form a small team to explore the mystic zones together. What do you think? After saying this, the Raindrop Sage, Goldwind Sage, and Darkflame Sage looked at Xiaoping. Chapter 2275. Boom! Suddenly the space around him changed. Xiaoping felt himself moving through the space tunnel. Finally, he arrived at another place. I've arrived at the mystic zone? Xiaoping soon found himself in another place. The first thing that entered his sight was a vast square. There were a large number of figures around the square, all of whom had reached the sempiternal realm and were emanating the aura of a powerful soul domain. What's going on? Such dense cosmic origin energy. Soon, he sensed the place he was in. The surrounding void was filled with dense cosmic origin energy. Even the Taichu Holy Land could not compare to this place. He felt his magic power advance by leaps and bounds. If he cultivated here, his cultivation speed would be at least several times faster than the Taichu Holy Land. As for the other regions, the efficiency was at least several dozen times higher. Clearly, the immortal sages who had just arrived at the mystic zone had sensed this. They all looked excited. They could clearly feel the benefits of entering the mystic zone. Brother Fengdu, looks like you've sensed it. Raindrop Sage looked at Xiaoping and laughed. This is the mystical part of the mystic zone. It's closest to the cosmic origin energy, so the surrounding void is frightening. If you cultivate in the mystic zone, your efficiency will increase by at least several times. Cultivating here for a year is comparable to several years in other regions, or even decades or centuries. He sighed with emotion. If there was no such environment, how could it attract so many sages to cultivate here? How could it nurture treasures that could make even sages drool? I see. But why are there so many immortal sages on the plaza? Xiaoping looked around and found that there were 20 to 30,000 immortal sages on the plaza. This number was frightening. He never thought there would be so many immortal sages. Haha, Brother Fengdu, I was as surprised as you at first. Goldwind Sage laughed. But after careful investigation, I felt that it was only natural. Humans have existed in the universe for countless eras. Even if there is only one immortal sage every 10,000 years, the number accumulated over time is still frightening. Even though many undying sages had fallen due to battles, wars, accidents, and falling into dangerous situations, the number of undying sages that survived was still quite shocking. The reason why the other regions of the universe feel that sages are rare is because most of them have already gathered in the mystic zones and won't easily return to their original regions. At this point, he paused for a moment before continuing. Of course, more importantly, the sages who have come to this human base are not just human sages. There are also many sages from other vassal races. There are billions of races that have attached themselves to our human race. Even if only one saint is born from each race, this number is more than the number of undying saints of our human race. He said that there were not only human sages in the base, but also sages of other races. I see. Xiaoping suddenly understood. The human race was one of the top races in the universe, so naturally, there were many vassals. If the weaker races wanted to survive, they had to rely on the wings of the top races. In fact, it was not only the human race. For example, the demon race, the elemental race, the dragon race, and so on. They also had many vassal races around them. Only then could they be considered as a huge force that formed the peak races. Of course, among the alliance of so many races, the human race had an absolute advantage in terms of military strength. After all, it wasn't the undying saints that decided the fate of the universe, but the high-level sages. An immemorial sage was something that even 100,000 undying sages couldn't compare to. Not to mention an invincible sage. Even if many undying sages gathered together, they still wouldn't be a match. However, there are so many races that have attached themselves to our human race. How can we differentiate between friend and foe? Xiaoping asked. He felt that there were simply too many races in the universe, like a school of carps in the river. It was impossible to remember all of them. That's easy, Dark Flame Sage laughed. I believe you have a communicator on you too. It's installed with the human race's universe virtual network. There's also a function inside, called the War Support System. Every one of us logs into the universe virtual network, which is equivalent to registering our information with the human race. Those vassal races also have access to the universe virtual network. As long as the other party also has the universe virtual network installed, the system will immediately recognize them. After all, the demon race, elemental race, and other peak races don't dare to use our universe virtual network. So that's how it is. Xiaoping's eyes gleamed. With Dark Flame Sage's explanation, he understood the crux of the matter. The universe virtual network could be said to be the strongest technology of the human race. It was because of the universe virtual network that the human race was able to rise step by step until they finally became the peak race of the universe. After all, the universe was simply too vast. It was practically boundless. Even the distance between planets was inconceivable. If it was during the immemorial era, before the universe virtual network appeared, communication between humans wouldn't be this convenient. Sometimes, sending a message from the North Universe to the South Universe would take tens to hundreds of years, some even tens of thousands of years. In between there might even be signal interference. However, the moment the universe virtual network appeared, it could instantly send messages. Xiaoping had finally settled down in the mystic zones. He chose a hotel to rest in, and began to slowly understand the situation around him. First of all, the human base he arrived at was located in a remote corner of the mystic area. Everyone called this place the Stormy Sea area. Although it was called the Sea region, there was no ocean here. It was just a boundless void. Powerful cosmic storms surged everywhere. Just to make it easier to understand, this place was called the Sea region. This area of the sea was also very dangerous. Cosmic storms were blowing everywhere. If ordinary spaceships were careless, they would be easily torn into countless pieces. Even sages couldn't easily cross the sea region alone. The human base Xiaoping's group was a large island in the Stormy Sea region, Stormy Island. This island had a diameter of over 100,000 light years. The human race occupied a total of 100 islands in the mystic zones. These places were also known as novice bases. Countless newly promoted sages would head to these novice bases for their first step of adaptation. Because the vicinity of these novice bases wasn't particularly dangerous, it wasn't the center of the struggle for hegemony. The intensity of the war wasn't that terrifying either. It was considered a mild buffer zone. One day noon, Xiaoping, Waterdrop Sage, Goldwind Sage, and Dark Flame Saint gathered again and came to a restaurant for lunch. I thought I would be prepared for hardship after arriving in the mystic zones. I didn't expect the environment in Stormy Island to be so comfortable. Waterdrop Sage sighed. Although Stormy Island was a military base, it was no different from an ordinary city after years of construction. There were large amounts of entertainment and service facilities. Some were even more luxurious than the cities outside. It's comfortable, but it's also very expensive. Goldwind Sage shook his head. Just staying in a hotel on Stormy Island cost 10,000 universe dollars a night, 300,000 universe dollars a month. Moreover, The food was also very expensive, at least a few times more than the outside world. This was because many of the resources on Stormy Island were transported from other places, so the transportation cost was very high. The real treasures in this place can't be bought with universe dollars. They need to be exchanged with points. Goldwind Sage sighed. After entering the mystic zones, all sages, be it humans, vassal races, independent cultivators, or people from the human race's sacred land, would all become members of the human army. In the internal system of the army, there would be all kinds of precious treasures suitable for sages to cultivate. It was enough to make countless sages drool. However, they needed to be exchanged with points. Without points, they couldn't get any treasures. Moreover, these points were shared with the sacred land of Taichu, Palace of Darkness, and All Saints Palace. Chapter 2277. Kill a sage? That's difficult. Who wouldn't want to kill a sage if given the chance? But it's hard to do so. Do you really think that the sages of the foreign races are fools? How can they be killed so easily? Hearing this, the Raindrop Sage, Dark Flame Sage, and Goldwind Sage shook their heads with bitter smiles. Indeed, just as Xiaoping said, the best way to obtain a large number of points was to kill the sages of the foreign races. Killing an early-stage immortal sage would give 110 million points. Killing an intermediate-stage immortal sage would give 130 million points. Killing a late-stage immortal sage would give 150 million points. Killing an early-stage immortal sage would give 100 million points. So on and so forth. The more powerful the sage killed, the more points one would obtain. If one followed the rules and slowly accumulated points, an immortal sage might not even be able to accumulate 10 million points in 100 million years. One could imagine how difficult it was to obtain points. The problem was it that easy to kill an immortal sage? After reaching the immortal sage realm, all of them had an immortal body. Even if they were left with only one cell, they could regenerate it. Killing an immortal sage was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Not to mention immortal sages of the same level. Even if both sides had great battle prowess, they could still escape if they couldn't win. Thus, over the past hundreds of millions of years, there were very few casualties between sages of the same level. Unless some immortal sages were unlucky and encountered experts of the near-ancient sage realm, they wouldn't be able to escape, even if they wanted to. It's fine. Even if we can't kill them, we can still search for treasures and exchange them for points. Xiaoping smiled. Killing sages of the foreign races wasn't the only way to obtain points. At the same time, they could exchange some treasures that they didn't need for points and sell them to the human army. Of course, the purchase price was naturally lower than the market price. Right, speaking of which, we have also stayed in Stormy Island for a few days. It's time for us to explore the island. There's no need to stay here and rot, the Raindrop Sage suggested. Stormy Island is surrounded by an extremely dangerous sea region. There might be many sages of the foreign races in hiding. If we aren't careful, we might be killed, the Dark Flame Sage said with a solemn expression. In the Stormy Sea region, there were many islands. The smaller ones were only 1 light year, while the larger ones were hundreds of light years. These islands were densely packed together, and there were at least tens of millions of them. Some of these islands hid a large number of precious treasures that even sages would drool over. Some of them were just barren places. No matter what, this sea region had a large number of secret treasures that were suitable for sages to cultivate with. However, the human race was not the only master of this sea region. There were also other powerful races. Their power in the Stormy Sea region was no less than that of the human race. These foreign race sages would also hide around these islands and hunt down human sages. After all, instead of searching for treasures on these barren islands, it would be better to kill a human race sage. This way, the chances of obtaining treasures would be higher, and they might even be able to obtain more treasures. Of course, the human race sages had the same idea. They often hid and hunted the sages of other races. As a result, this led to the entire Stormy Sea region becoming an extremely dangerous battlefield, with killing intent everywhere. It doesn't matter. The sages who stay in such a remote place like the Storm Sea area are at most peak immortal sages. Even if we can't beat them, we can still avoid them with our strength. If we are careful, we won't be killed. Goldwind Sage said in a deep voice. Indeed, since we have all reached the immortal realm, there is no need to be too careful. Raindrop Sage also made up his mind. I don't have any objections. Xiaoping was very calm and courageous because of his skill. All right, let's set off tomorrow. Seeing that the other three didn't have any objections, Dark Flame Sage had no reason to object. Another day passed. Xiaoping and the others arrived at the assembly hall of Stormy Island. This was the only exit of Stormy Island. Many sages left Stormy Island from this place. Whoosh! At this moment, the Raindrop Saint waved his hand and pulled out an aqua blue spaceship from his space ring. It was as translucent as a droplet of water and was covered in inscriptions of laws. To no surprise, it was a low-quality saint artifact. Let's set off on my raindrop. It is made of the universe metal water ripple gold. Even if we encounter an immortal sage's attack, it will be able to greatly weaken the opponent's strength. It will be like merging with the sea. Raindrop Sage proudly introduced his sacred spaceship. In order to build this spaceship, he had paid a huge price. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he had spent all his fortune. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Xiaoping, Dark Flame Sage, and Goldwind Sage boarded Raindrop without hesitation and went to the resting hall of the spaceship. Let's go. Raindrop Sage waved his hand. Raindrop immediately flew out along the passageway of the base. After flying for millions of kilometers, they finally left this long passageway. Rumble in the next second, Raindrop left Stormy Island and arrived in the cosmic void outside. With a beep, the virtual projection of the spaceship opened. The entire outer shell turned illusory, and everything outside was displayed. Everyone looked behind and immediately saw the overall appearance of Stormy Island. Amazing! This is Stormy Island. Xiaoping's eyelids twitched. Even though he had seen many things, he was still shocked by the shocking scene in front of him. Raindrop Sage and the others weren't any better. The entire Stormy Island was extremely huge. It looked like a huge sun. It was boundless and one couldn't see the end of Stormy Island with the naked eye. Moreover, this island was wrapped in a huge golden energy shield. The thickness of this energy shield alone reached 100 million kilometers. It was terrifyingly thick. An all-out attack from an immortal sage wouldn't be able to shake the energy shield at all. Moreover, there were millions of turrets around the island. There were Star Destroyer cannons, spatial cannons, void cannons, law cannons, laser cannons, and so on. They were densely arranged and formed a three-dimensional war artillery system. If these artillery shells were fired at the same time, even a near-ancient sage would be blasted into pieces. One could imagine that the entire Stormy Island had been built into a real war fortress. Most of the area inside was used to build weapon systems, restrictive formations, and law patterns. However, after thinking about it carefully, this was reasonable. After all, this place was the novice base of the human race. It was connected to a void passageway and could directly lead to the hinterland of the human race. It was equivalent to a strategic fortress. If this place was lost, it would be equivalent to the human race losing a strategic point and a forward base. Such a loss would be disastrous. Chapter 2278. Whoosh! A few days later, Waterdrop was sailing in the void. It had left Stormy Island and entered the boundless void, freely traversing through this stormy sea region. Occasionally, they would encounter terrifying cosmic storms that could destroy the heavens and the earth. Fortunately, the Waterdrop was also a Saint-grade spaceship. It was extremely sturdy and fast, so it was able to avoid the destruction of these storms. Along the way, they were relatively safe and didn't encounter any danger. There are many wreckages around. Xiaoping saw the situation outside through the ship's virtual projection. He saw a large number of spaceship wreckage, meteorites, magic treasure fragments, and so on floating in the void. They were like large pieces of garbage, floating in the surroundings and acting as obstacles. Waterdrop was carefully avoiding these obstacles and slithering in a snake-like manner. It's said that there were countless battles in the vicinity of Stormy Island. There were even medieval saints who fell here. The raindrop saint said what he knew. Therefore, the nearby islands collapsed and turned into a large number of meteorite fragments, which drifted in the void. Moreover, the islands in the mystic zones are very cold and hard. Even immortal saints can't easily shatter them. They can also resist the space storms in this sea region. That's why there are so many wreckages. Look, there are many ship wreckages and artifact fragments. Maybe there are some treasures. Why don't we go and pick them up? Goldwind Sage suggested, pointing at the floating space trash. He felt that there might be a chance to find some secret treasures among them. Don't be silly. Dark Flame Sage waved his hand. If there were any treasures in these wreckages, they would have been plundered by other saints after billions of years. How could we get a chance? The things left behind are all trash that others wouldn't even want. If there really is a valuable universe wreckage, then we have to be vigilant. Perhaps this is a trap. Once we get close, we'll be ambushed. He felt that there weren't so many things to pick up in this world. There wouldn't be such a huge toad jumping on the streets. Moreover, this was the myriad race battlefield. It was extremely dangerous, so they had to be careful. Forget it, I was just saying. Goldwind Sage shrugged and said. But where are we going? Won't it be a waste of time to wander aimlessly like this? Don't worry, Raindrop Saint said in a deep voice. That area was still within the sphere of influence of our human race, so the sages of the alien races didn't dare to approach it. However, we've been sailing for several days, and have completely left the safe zone of the human race. It's not strange for enemies to appear at any time. It doesn't matter even if we don't find any saints. We can totally land on some islands. It's said that there are many universal treasures on the islands. We can go there and plunder them. He said that they would be able to reach a place where some islands were clustered after sailing for a while. There is a small island up ahead. There might be treasures there. Let's go take a look. Dark Flame Saint suddenly pointed to a small island that seemed to have a diameter of more than 10 light years. Whoosh! Hearing this, the water drop immediately flew towards an island in the distance. Near an island, a fist-sized grayish-brown stone floated quietly in the void. It was a spatial artifact disguised as a small meteorite. 5 peak immortal saints were gathered inside it. They were the sages of the elemental race. They were the water elemental race, fire elemental race, earth elemental race, metal elemental race, and wood elemental race. These 5 elemental saints were a powerful team of sages. They had cooperated for a long time. When the 5 elemental saints joined forces, they could immediately arrange a 5 elements battle formation. They could easily crush the enemy and exert several times their combat power. They looked like humans with heads, noses, mouths, hands, and feet. However, their bodies were condensed from elements and didn't have flesh and blood. For example, the water elemental race's body was condensed from liquid. The fire elemental race's body was condensed from flames. The metal elemental race's body was like metal people. They could easily change into other races' forms. They only had one elemental core in their body that supported all their power. Haha, sure enough, when the 5 elemental saints joined forces and arranged the 5 elements battle formation, our power doubled, and we were successful in every endeavor. This time, we easily annihilated a team of saints of the alien races. It's a pity that we didn't kill all of them and let some of them escape. The one who spoke was the fire elemental saint. His name was Delian. He looked very happy. It can't be helped. The immortal saints aren't that easy to kill. We were already very lucky to be able to kill 3 of them. After using all our trump cards, it's normal for a few of them to escape. The water elemental Saint Valadin smiled. He didn't think it mattered. Being able to kill 3 immortal saints of the alien races meant that they could obtain a huge amount of military merit, which was equivalent to a harvest of millions. Moreover, they could also obtain all the treasures on them. This was already a huge fortune. If they cultivated peacefully, they might not have such a harvest even after 1,000,000 years. This was a windfall. That was why the battlefield of the myriad races made them so crazy and unwilling to give up. The biggest contribution this time is Buteshi. If it wasn't for him discovering the team of the alien races and trapping them in time, I'm afraid most of them might have escaped. The metal elemental Saint Path looked at the wood elemental Saint Strong. No, no, no. I just happened to be there. Without you guys joining forces, we wouldn't have been able to kill them, the wood elemental Saint Strong said modestly. All right, there's no need to be humble. Everyone has contributed to this. As long as we keep working together, this kind of harvest will be endless. That's right. Those alien races saints are simply our ATM. Alright, same rules. The harvest this time will be divided equally among the 5 of us. The treasures that we don't want can be sold in exchange for military merit. The few elemental saints laughed. Their cooperation was very pleasant. Wait, it seems that a human saint is coming over here. A spaceship is flying over openly. Suddenly, the wood elemental Saint Strong spoke. He sensed something. Indeed, I've never seen this spaceship model before. Moreover, it's so brazen. It might be a rookie that just arrived in the mystic zones. The water elemental Saint Valadin's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. Rookies are great. The ones who die the most on the battlefield are these rookies. They have just advanced to the immortal realm, and think that they won't die just because they have the immortal body. However, there are many ways to kill them on the battlefield. It's said that the human saints are rich. If we can kill one, we will definitely become rich. What are you waiting for? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Haha, I told you that we're lucky today. I didn't expect to encounter a few more human saints coming to die. God is really helping us. Trap them first. Don't let them escape. The few elemental saints were murderous. They looked at each other and immediately took action, flying out of the space artifact. Chapter 2280. You want to kill me? How could it be so easy? Sword Path Mystique, Raindrop Stone Piercing. Sensing the boundless killing intent in the depths of the void, Raindrop Saint bellowed. He immediately drew a low-grade sacred artifact blue longsword, and used his Sword Path Mystique. He waved the longsword in his hand, and condensed a massive amount of water magic power. Each sword chi turned into a water droplet. In a few breaths, there were billions of water droplets. Moreover, every drop of water contained a terrifying penetrative power, as well as the power of sharpness. Billions of water droplets represented billions of sword chi. They fused together and formed a sword path formation that blasted towards the 5 elemental race sages, tearing everything in its path apart. Tornado Remnant Snow. Goldwind Saint made a grabbing motion, and also took out a low-rank saint artifact, Earth Fiend Astral Fan. It was a golden fan with densely packed restrictive formations carved on it. It could communicate with the dimension of wind, and contained a frightening astral wind power. Whoosh, he waved his hand, and seemed to mobilize the baleful chi and astral wind of the world. They whistled and formed terrifying tornadoes that covered the sky and the earth, shaking everything within billions of kilometers. The tornadoes contained terrifying killing intent, and kept slicing and tearing. They seemed to have turned into countless wind blades, slicing countless meteorites into pieces like a cutting machine. Every wind blade that erupted was extremely sharp, like the shocking sword chi of a peerless sword path expert. Dark Dragon Sky Splitting Fist. Dark Flame Saint wore a black boxing glove that looked like a dragon's head, and emitted terrifying dragon might. The dragon's eyes were vivid and lifelike, as if they would come to life at any moment. This was his low-grade sacred artifact, Dark Dragon Glove. It was a powerful sacred artifact, made from the scales of the Dark Dragon, and could greatly increase the power of Dark Flame Saint's mystique. Dong! 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 He stood in the void like a peerless martial path expert. His fist surged out of the sea. In an instant, the void within billions of kilometers was filled with densely packed fist imprints. There were at least 100 million of them. These fist imprints were extremely terrifying, and seemed to be able to tear the world apart. They contained the Dark Dragon's power, and were filled with terrifying true dragon flames that burned the void. When such a fist smashed down, the heavens shook and the earth trembled. It was as if the entire void was about to collapse. The 3 undying saints attacked at the same time, almost crushing the heavens and sweeping through the void. As for Xiaoping, He operated the Dark North body protecting skill, and countless layers of energy shields surged out of his body, layer by layer, as if forming a Kunpeng domain, and offset all the attack power. Bang bang bang. When these powers collided, they immediately produced an intense explosion. It was as if a planet had exploded, producing a world-shaking sound. Terrifying energy swept in all directions, shattering meteorites. If this was a battle on a planet, the planet would probably be shattered in an instant. The elemental snakes also crumbled under this power, turning into nothingness. Haha. As expected of the saints of the human race, you're powerful indeed. Even if you're a newly minted saint, your battle prowess is nothing to scoff at. However, you guys are still too inexperienced. We, the 5 elemental race saints, have joined forces to set up the 5 elements absolute killing formation. The power of the 5 elements is endless and indestructible. Let's see how you can block it. If it weren't for the fact that I'm worried about your human reinforcements, I would have exhausted you to death right here. Cut the crap. Kill them immediately to prevent any more problems. Attack. 5 elements palm imprint. Reverse heaven and earth submit. The 5 elemental race immortal sages were also shocked by the power of Xia Ping and the others. However, they were only slightly shocked. The 5 immortal sages had joined forces and set up the 5 elements cage. These immortal sages were like turtles in a jar. They formed hand seals and immediately mobilized the power of the 5 elements in the depths of the formation. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth and other elemental powers circulated like a storm, turning into rivers that spanned tens of millions of kilometers. It could be said that this was the terrifying aspect of the elemental race. They were born with elemental bodies and could naturally use elemental powers. The power they could unleash was several times that of the human race. Especially when the power of the 5 elements fused, they could unleash their battle prowess several times that of before. Originally, their cultivation was high, reaching the peak of the sempiternal realm. At the same time, they had the advantage in numbers, and they had joined forces to set up a formation. This kind of battle prowess was much higher than the raindrop saint. Rumble. In an instant, palms condensed from the 5 elements appeared in the void. There were hundreds of millions of palms, like the hands of a giant, reaching out from the void. These palms attacked one after another, as if they were swatting flies. There were thousands and thousands of them, and they slapped at the raindrop saint and the others fiercely. Bang! 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 The raindrop saint and the others were caught off guard. They were instantly sent flying like rubber balls. At the same time, a terrifying power vibrated in their bodies, producing a terrifying destructive power. Even though they resisted with all their might, there were just too many palms. Their magic power was rapidly depleting, and each attack consumed a portion of their power. Damn it! The raindrop saint clenched his teeth and swung his sword, destroying the palm imprints one by one. However, there were simply too many of them, and they were unending. If he made a single mistake, the palm would land on his body and cause him to cough up blood. How troublesome! Dark Flame Saint's face was gloomy. He tried his best to resist, but he was in the middle of the enemy's formation. Moreover, the 5 elemental race saints were elusive and could appear in any corner at any time. He couldn't find the enemy's true body. He could only passively take a beating. It was very sullen. Fortunately, his martial path magic was very powerful, and he could barely resist. Damn it, I can't get out. Goldwind Saint darted left and right. He turned into a breeze and tried to escape, but no matter where he went, he was trapped by the 5 elements cage. He couldn't escape. It was like a turtle in a jar. Moreover, the surrounding void was sealed. There was no way for him to escape. Not bad. Xia Ping's figure flickered. He used the Kunpeng steps and easily dodged the palms coming from the void, as if he was taking a stroll. He didn't consume much energy. He was slowly comprehending the fighting style of the elemental race saints. Moreover, he used the infernal golden crow's eyes and saw the 5 elemental race saints standing in the depths of the void. He couldn't help but feel that these elemental race saints were indeed very mysterious. Their elemental body was also very powerful. Their entire body was composed of energy. Even if one of their limbs was cut off, they could quickly regenerate. It was impossible to harm their body. There were only two ways to kill an elemental race saint. One was to destroy their soul, and the other was to shatter their elemental core. Chapter 2281. Damn it, these human rookies have some ability. I can't even injure them with this. One of them is very strange. He's only dodging and not attacking. He seems to be observing us. Is he trying to find out where we are and counterattack? Counterattack my ass. How can this brat counterattack? Don't be a fool's dream. Don't be careless. The human race has endless magic treasures. Who knows what trump cards he has? Even if he's just a sempiternal initial stage rookie, we have to be careful. Even a lion will go all out against a rabbit. That's right. Don't be stingy. Use your trump card and kill them. The 5 elemental sages exchanged glances. They immediately paid more attention to Xia Ping's group, because they could feel the threat from the 4 immortal sages. They were especially wary of Xia Ping. This human seemed to be giving off an unfathomable aura. Divine ability, 5 elemental flowing light. The 5 immortal sages of the elemental race roared and formed hand seals to activate the 5 elemental formation. Rumble, immediately, countless elemental powers vibrated. One elemental river after another pierced through the void, connecting to countless dimensional worlds. A huge amount of energy poured down, shaking the void. In the blink of an eye, these elemental energies transformed into beams of light, forming millions upon millions of beams. They were so dense that they practically covered the entire space, leaving no gaps. Damn it! The expressions of the raindrop sage and the others changed. They sensed how terrifying these rays were. They contained a sharp power that could pierce through everything. Even low-grade sacred tools would find it hard to block them. Without saying a word, they immediately activated their divine abilities in an attempt to block them. Bang! 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 One after another, the elemental rays bombarded the bodies of the raindrop sage and the others. Immediately, they felt their magic power depleting rapidly. Layer after layer of restrictive formations weakened. At this moment, the raindrop sage couldn't help but scream. Due to a moment of carelessness, his arm was pierced by an elemental ray. A large amount of blood splattered out. Under normal circumstances, such an injury would be nothing. However, when his arm was injured, the black aura attached to the elemental ray seemed to have a life of its own, and immediately drilled into the wound. Damn it, what is this? Not only Raindrop Sage, but Goldwind Sage's right leg was also pierced by an elemental ray, due to a moment of carelessness. A large amount of blood spurted out. For a moment, he felt a terrifying poison invading his body. As if it had a life of its own, it instantly entered the depths of his soul, and was corroding it. Immediately, he felt as if his body had been splashed with sulfuric acid. His soul was being corroded, producing a large amount of thick smoke. This kind of pain was simply unimaginable, as if his heart was being torn apart. What frightened him even more was that his immortal body couldn't do anything. His soul was rapidly weakening, and the power in his body was rapidly declining. Damn it! This is a rare poison of the universe, the whirling calamity poison. It specifically targets the soul. Once one is infected by it, the entire soul will rapidly collapse. And without an antidote, one will die for sure. Dark Flame Saint also cried out because he had also been hit. In a moment of carelessness, a wound had appeared on his face. Just a single wound was enough to cause the poison to attack the heart. What? Whirling poison? Hearing this, Raindrop Sage and Goldwind Sage's faces turned deathly pale, revealing a look of despair. Sages with immortal bodies were usually very difficult to kill. Even if only one cell remained, they could quickly recover. However, this didn't mean that immortal sages were truly unkillable. There were many strange things in the universe that could destroy immortal bodies and kill immortal sages. One of them was the famous whirling calamity poison. This was a poison specialized in corroding and destroying the soul. Even a little bit of it would cause the soul to collapse. The entire soul would rapidly corrode and eventually collapse, resulting in death. Many immortal sages were terrified of the whirling calamity poison. Countless immortal sages had died to this poison over the countless years. Of course, if there was Een in the universe, there would definitely be Yang. This poison was not without an antidote. The problem was that no one had the time to take the antidote in such an intense battle. Therefore, if one was infected by this poison during battle, one would almost certainly die. Therefore, after hearing that they were infected by the whirling calamity poison, Raindrop Sage and the others revealed an expression of despair. They didn't expect to encounter such a calamity when they had just emerged. Haha, fools, humans are really fools. Previously, you all thought that we wouldn't be able to kill you. After being infected by the whirling calamity poison, you all will die without a doubt. So what if you have an immortal body? This isn't a guarantee of immortality. Youngsters learn well. However, I reckon that you all have no future. You will die today. Haha, the whirling calamity poison is a priceless treasure. We spent a lot to exchange for this treasure. You rookies will die a worthy death. The 5 elemental sages laughed heartily. After being infected by their whirling calamity poison, these human sages would die without a doubt. There was no hope for them. The previous sages of the foreign races were also killed by them like this. Thinking about killing these human sages, not only would they obtain a large number of treasures, but they would also obtain a large number of military merits. They couldn't contain their joy. This time, they would truly become rich overnight. Fengdu, you haven't been poisoned yet. You can still be saved. Run, I'll cover for you. The Raindrop Sage turned around and shouted at Xiaoping. Fengdu, I really didn't expect that we would have to part ways today. I thought that I would be able to fight alongside you all for billions of years. Run! But remember to bring reinforcements and help us take revenge. Otherwise, I won't be able to die in peace. The Goldwind Sage's eyes revealed boundless hatred. He stared at the 5 elemental sages and gnashed his teeth. He knew that he would definitely die this time. Xiaoping hadn't been poisoned yet, and could still be saved. Therefore, he planned to cover for Xiaoping, so that he could escape alone. Fengdu, these are some of my treasures. They are all in my spatial ring. I only hope that after you leave, you can help me take care of my clansmen. This is also my last request. The Dark Flame Sage transmitted his divine sense in an attempt to make arrangements for his funeral. He knew that he couldn't escape this time. Only Xiaoping had a chance to live. However, he still had many things to worry about. At this moment, he could only rely on this person whom he had met by chance. Bullshit, you want to escape for revenge? Dream on. Don't even think about escaping. All of you will die here. This will be your burial ground. The 5 elemental sages were brimming with killing intent. They naturally knew that weeds would grow again if they didn't remove the roots. They absolutely wouldn't give these human sages any chance to escape. All of them had to die. This was because the spear's speed was so fast that even divine sense couldn't capture it. By the time it realized it, the spear had already pierced through its body. Dong! Patter, the metal elemental saint, widened his eyes. There was a look of horror, shock, unwillingness, and disbelief in the depths of his pupils. He couldn't imagine that he was hit by a human saint's spear. The power of this spear was extremely terrifying, and it contained the terrifying power of slaughter and hell. It passed through his body and spread to every part of Patter's body. It even seeped into his soul, causing it to shatter inch by inch. With a bang, the metal elemental Saint Pat didn't even have time to scream. The elemental core in his body was instantly shattered. His entire body disintegrated and was completely torn apart. And the metal elemental Saint Patter died just like that. Patter! Strong, the wood elemental saint shouted angrily. His eyes were wide open. He had the best relationship with Patter. They had known each other for hundreds of millions of years, and their relationship was deeper than family. Originally, he thought that he could still live until the day he withdrew from the war. However, he didn't expect that Patter would actually die now. He was stabbed to death by this human in front of him with a single spear strike. He couldn't even struggle. Bitch, how dare you kill Patter? I won't forgive you. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to make you die without a burial place. Delian, the fire elemental saint, had a bad temper. He shouted angrily, and a wave of anger surged from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. Obviously, Patter's death had greatly stimulated him, making him feel an unprecedented anger. Kill him. We must kill him. We can't let him escape. Activate the Great Array and blast him into pieces. Valadin, the water elemental saint, and the earth elemental saint were both gnashing their teeth. They originally thought that this operation was foolproof. It was indeed smooth at the beginning. First, they used the 5 elements cage to trap this group of human saints. Then they consumed the power of these human saints. Then, they took advantage of their unpreparedness and used the whirling poison to quickly kill the 3 human saints in front of them. In the end, there was only one human saint left. Just one. They thought that it would be extremely easy to deal with him. It was like drinking tea or eating a meal. Who would have thought that such a change would happen? This damn bitch pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. She made Patter relax. One face-to-face, just one face-to-face, and she actually stabbed Patter, the immortal saint of the metal elemental race, to death. What kind of joke was this? How could they allow this damned human saint to live? They had to kill him and tear him into pieces to avenge Patter. Xiaoping didn't care about the anger of these elemental saints at all. They dared to ambush him, so they had to be prepared to die. Could it be that they were allowed to kill others, but others were not allowed to kill them? There was no such logic in the world. How stupid. With the hell spear in his hand, he was like the god of the underworld descending. Without giving them any chance to rest, he attacked again. Hell Demon Suppression Spear's 3rd style creation. The hell spear moved like dragons and snakes. Like a reincarnation brush, it drew out many trajectories. Hell worlds appeared in the void one after another, as if they had turned into pictures of hell. However, the mountains and rivers inside these pictures of hell contained peerless murderous intent. It was as if they were connected to the source of hell, causing all the power of hell to burst out at the same time. Boom! The pictures of hell crushed down like the scriptures of hell. Every picture emitted terrifying and condensed power of hell, suppressing the void as if the god of hell had descended. From the depths of these pictures of hell, thousands of sharp blades of hell gushed out. It was as if countless prison guards were born from the void and resurrected from the chaotic era. The power of this attack was extremely terrifying. The wood elemental saint Strong and the immortal saint, who were standing at the front, were caught off guard. Their bodies were instantly penetrated by countless sharp blades of hell. Dong dong dong. Immediately, they let out shrill screams. These sharp blades that contained the power of hell directly penetrated their souls and instantly tore them into pieces. The 2-peak sempiternal realm elemental saints died on the spot. The elemental cores in their bodies were immediately shattered into pieces. Chapter 2283. Is this a joke? Raindrop Saint rubbed his eyes as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Previously, he planned to let Xiaoping escape alone while he brought up the rear. Even if he had to risk his life, he had to let Xiaoping, who was the only one who wasn't poisoned, live. Only then would they have the chance to take revenge and not be completely annihilated. The reason why he did this was not because he had great sentiments, but because he had no other choice. If he didn't make such a rational decision, no one would be able to survive. However, he didn't expect that Xiaoping would show his prowess as soon as he shouted. Xiaoping's speed was so fast that it made one's hair stand on end. He stabbed the metal elemental saint to death first. Then, the remaining 4 elemental saints raged as if they were cornered and wanted to gang up on him. However, before he could get nervous, and the 4 elemental saints flew into a rage, Fengdu became enraged and stabbed the earth elemental immortal saint and wood elemental saint to death. 3 peak immortal saints died just like that without being able to resist. To be honest, if he hadn't fought these elemental saints before, he would have thought that these elemental saints were fake. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been stabbed to death so easily. No, this isn't a joke. It's real. This isn't a dream. Goldwind Saint swallowed his saliva and was dumbfounded. Previously, he had planned to ask Xiaoping to help him take revenge. Of course, he didn't have too much hope. After all, The other party was a team of 5 elemental saints. How could it be so easy to kill and take revenge? However, he didn't expect that Fengdu Saint would take out his spear and stab the 3 elemental saints to death. That was an immortal saint, a powerful saint with an immortal body. He was a terrifying monster that could regenerate even if only one cell was left. He was extremely ferocious. Even if these elemental saints wanted to kill him, they didn't rely on their own strength. They relied on the strange poison of the universe, the whirling calamity poison. However, Fengdu Saint was so terrifying that he didn't even rely on any poison to stab the 3 immortal saints to death. He was extremely ferocious. Since when was an immortal saint so weak that he could be killed so easily? Brother Fengdu is too strong. Is he really just an immortal saint? The same species as us. 3 peak immortal realm saints of the elemental clan were killed just like that? Dark Flame Saint didn't know what to say. He was the most embarrassed one right now. Previously, he had wanted to hand over all his treasures to Xiaoping, hoping that Xiaoping would take care of his descendants. After all, he still had many worries that he couldn't get rid of. But now, he hadn't even handed over the treasures on him when Xiaoping suddenly rose up and started a massacre. He stabbed 3 undying saints to death and instantly turned the entire situation around. He felt that things had changed too quickly, and he couldn't react in time. Raindrop Saint, Goldwind Saint, and Dark Flame Saint were just shocked, while the remaining Water Elemental Saint, Valadin, and Fire Elemental Saint Delian were so scared that they peed their pants. Their anger vanished along with the death of the 3 peak of Immortal Realm Saints. When there were 4 of them just now, they still had a chance to compete with this human sage. They even had a great chance to kill this despicable human. But in the blink of an eye, before they could react, 3 of their own were stabbed to death. Fuck, what was there to fight? Was there anyone who bullied others like this? Could it be that this human was an ancient sage who deliberately disguised himself as an immortal saint to ambush them? To be honest, they couldn't help but doubt the power of this human sage. How could an ordinary immortal saint be so powerful? It was impossible. Run! Water Elemental Saint Valadin and Fire Elemental Saint Delian glanced at each other and saw each other's intention to retreat. At this point, they couldn't fight against these human sages anymore. If they didn't run now, they would probably follow in the footsteps of the 3 immortal saints. But before the 2 of them started running, Xiaoping attacked again. His figure flickered and disappeared into the void. Like a bolt of lightning, he immediately appeared in front of the 2 immortal saints. Hell-suppressing demon spear 4th move, destruction. The tip of the spear turned into a vortex. For a moment, the flow of space and time seemed to change. The void distorted, and a terrifying power of hell surged out from the depths of the spear. Countless characters of hell surged out and seemed to emit an aura of destruction. Terrifying killing intent from the characters of hell pierced through the void. This was a divine ability that was even more terrifying than the previous 2 moves. No! Fire Elemental Saint Delian screamed. When he saw the spear blasting toward him, the tip of the spear produced a terrifying vortex and distorted the void. He immediately felt his hair stand on end. He felt that the spear was blasting toward him and produced a terrifying devouring force. This force contained a powerful suction force that almost sucked his soul out of his body. An uncontrollable fear surged out from the depths of his heart. Dong! Fire Elemental Saint Delian couldn't react in time. The spear directly pierced through his head. A destructive energy instantly spread throughout his body, seeping into every corner of his body. With a boom, its body immediately shattered. The elemental core in its body also exploded. Even the soul in the depths of its body completely collapsed, shaken to the point where it was reduced to its atomic state. It was completely destroyed and returned to the depths of the void. Delian die. There's one left. Xiaoping turned around and looked at Valadin, the water elemental saint in the distance. Human, wait for me. My elemental race will not let you go. Valadin, the water elemental saint, shouted angrily with infinite hatred. At the same time, determination appeared in the depths of his pupils. Boom! In an instant he actually chose to self-destruct. His whole body shattered. producing a terrifying destructive force that covered millions of kilometers, destroying the world. Seeing this, the Raindrop Saint and others quickly retreated to avoid the power of this self-destruction. Xia Ping ran Dark North body protection technique to withstand the aftermath of such an explosion. All the explosive power that approached his body was quickly devoured and disappeared completely. It's really decisive. I didn't expect it to escape. Xia Ping felt a strange fluctuation coming from the depths of the void. When Valadin, the water elemental saint, self-destructed, a soul immediately flew away from his body. This speed was really too fast. It was even faster than the speed of light. It blended into the void and easily escaped from this place. There was no way to catch up with it. Obviously, Valadin, the water elemental saint, was extremely decisive. He would rather self-destruct his body and give up all his treasures to escape from this place. Just one negligence allowed Valadin to escape. Chapter 2284. Xia Ping, you've earned points. At this moment, Corinne's voice was heard. Points. Xia Ping immediately connected to the universe virtual network and found that the matter of him killing the 4 peak immortal sages had been recorded. According to the system's judgment, he had earned 200 million points in one go. Killing 1 peak immortal sage was worth 50 million points, and killing 4 was worth 200 million. Seeing this number, he could not help but sigh. Back in the Holy Land of Taichu, he had to use all kinds of methods to earn points. But it was not as good as killing an immortal sage in the Mystic Zone. Indeed, war was the fastest way to earn money. Just this one time, he had earned a fortune that he could not earn even if he tried his best. Whoosh! Xia Ping grabbed the spatial rings left behind by the 4 immortal sages of the elemental race, and the one that had escaped. The spatial rings contained a large number of treasures from those immortal sages. He scanned the spatial rings with his divine sense, and sensed that there were indeed a large number of valuable treasures in them. Not to mention the points obtained from killing the immortal saints. Just the treasures from the foreign races, saints, would be extremely profitable. It could be said to be a sudden windfall. He was very satisfied with his harvest this time. Brother Fengdu, congratulations. You've killed 4 peak immortal sages. I'm afraid you've earned a lot this time. At this moment, the Raindrop Sage flew over and was full of admiration. Brother Fengdu, you've hidden your strength too well. I didn't expect you to have already advanced to the sempiternal realm. Compared to us, you're much stronger. The Goldwind Sage sighed. He did not expect Xia Ping to be this powerful. Although Xia Ping was already a sage at the sempiternal realm, 2 minor levels higher than them. The problem was that the 5 elemental sages were also peak immortal sages. Yet Xia Ping killed them as easily as chopping vegetables. It was truly unbelievable. Brother Fengdu, thank you. Without you, we would have been finished. The Dark Flame Sage said gratefully. Dark Flame Saint said gratefully. That was their first battle since they came out. They thought that there wouldn't be any danger. But who would have thought that they would almost die? One could imagine how dangerous the mystic zones were. It was completely beyond their imagination. It's all right. We're all humans, and we're on the same team. It's nothing. However, you've been poisoned. Are you feeling any better? Xia Ping inquired about the three's situation. Troublesome, this is very troublesome. The Raindrop Sage knitted his brows. Although we have temporarily suppressed the whirling calamity poison and prevented it from spreading, we will still die if we don't detoxify it. Yes, but there should be an antidote on Storm Island. When we return, we can detoxify it. It is said that even if you take the antidote, your soul will be greatly damaged. You may not recover even if you rest for millions of years. However, we don't have any hidden dangers now. It's just that our souls are a little weak. The Raindrop Sage, the Dark Flame Sage, and the Goldwind Sage were extremely excited. They felt that the crisis on their bodies had been completely removed. There was no longer any danger to their lives. At the same time, they only felt that their bodies were a little weak, but their souls were not too seriously damaged. This made them even more surprised. Although the whirling poison in your bodies has been temporarily removed, the damage caused by the whirling poison is not small. It is not suitable for you to continue fighting for now. Go back and find a doctor to examine your bodies first. Xia Ping gave his suggestion. Brother Fengdu is right. Let's go back for now. After going through the crisis of life and death, the Raindrop Sage, the Dark Flame Sage, and the Goldwind Sage were deeply touched. They felt that they were really lacking and needed to improve. Otherwise, such a crisis would continue to come. At the same time, they had a deeper understanding of the dangers in the mystic area. It was really dangerous at every step. Valadin gritted his teeth. If this human discovers the secret in the spatial ring, or if they take the opportunity to return to the human base, Storm Island, and sell all the treasures, then everything will be over. We won't be able to find any trace of this human anymore. Therefore, if we want to kill these humans, we have to find helpers and kill them within these 3 days before they return to Stormy Island. In the Stormy Sea region, there were not only the forces of the human clan, but also the forces of the elemental clan, the demon clan, and other peak clans. They also had comrades and vassal clans. These were all helpers. However, that human is too powerful. If we want to kill him, we must not let the immortal saint come. Otherwise, it would not be revenge but rather death. Valadin clenched his fists. Although it was unwilling to admit it, it had to admit that it was deeply afraid of that human. If it had not been for the fact that it had made a prompt decision and escaped quickly, it would have most likely died. This kind of strength was not something that an ordinary immortal saint could handle. Only a near-ancient saint, who was even stronger than an immortal saint, could kill him. Compared to this, it felt that it was really unbelievable. That damned human was clearly just a late immortal saint like it. How could he be so powerful? Since when did such a terrifying immortal saint appear among the humans? Looks like I can only look for Lord Cassio for this matter. He is already an early ancient saint, and has comprehended the laws of space for 10 million years. He should be strong enough to kill that human. Valadin's eyes shone with a profound light. In fact, if it was possible, it even wanted to ask a middle ancient saint to crush the human with their strongest strength, so that the detestable human would not have a chance to escape. However, in the Stormy Sea region, the most powerful beings were late ancient saints who had comprehended the laws of space. As for experts at the level of middle ancient saints, they would not appear in a barren place like the Stormy Sea region. Therefore, it had no choice but to take a step back and choose Lord Cassio, who was an early ancient saint. Thinking of this, Valadin did not hesitate anymore. He immediately took out his communicator and contacted late ancient Saint Cassio. In the Stormy Sea region, countless islands stood in a palace on a nameless island. 7 elemental saints appeared in this palace. Among them, 6 were immortal saints. They had all reached the pinnacle of the immortal saint realm. The last one was late ancient Saint Cassio, who had comprehended the laws of space. Haha, as expected of Lord Cassio. He is too powerful. Isn't that so? Previously, there was a small team of human saints with at least 6 immortal saints. They had many treasures and were very powerful. However, after encountering Lord Cassio, they immediately fled like rats. Those foolish human saints still wanted to run? But how could they outrun Lord Cassio, who comprehended the laws of space? One move, just one move, and he pierced through countless layers of space. Those immortal saints were beaten to a state worse than death. Their souls were destroyed. Indeed, those immortal saints still wanted to self-destruct. They must be dreaming. Lord Cassio can pass through thousands of layers of space with a thought. How could they possibly self-destruct? No matter what they do, they will only struggle on their deathbed. With Lord Cassio here, we are practically invincible in the Stormy Sea region. Contribution points, treasures, they are all ours to plunder. Our lives are so comfortable. The immortal saints of the elemental race were proud of themselves. They kept sucking up to Cassio. After all, they could only be careful in the Stormy Sea region. They did not dare to be too arrogant. However, with the protection of late ancient Saint Cassio, they could practically do whatever they wanted in a barren land like the Stormy Sea region. Countless immortal saints would tremble in fear when they saw them. Their lives were no different from those of the retired emperor. Valadin is looking for me. Why is this kid looking for me? Previously, I wanted to recruit him and make him my subordinate. But now, he actually came looking for me on his own. Interesting. At this moment, Cassio noticed that his communicator was ringing. Chapter 2286. Valadin, why are you looking for me? Cassio said. If you have something to say, just say it. I still have things to do here, so I don't have much time to talk nonsense with you, understand? It spoke directly to Valadin, not wanting to beat around the bush. Lord Cassio, my brother's paid, Delian and the others are all dead. They died in the hands of a human saint. Valadin clenched his fist. Dead. Hearing this, Cassio narrowed its eyes. It knew that Valadin had joined a 5-man team, an elite team formed by the 5 elemental races. Each of them was a peak undying saint. If these 5 joined hands, unless it was a near-ancient saint, no one would be able to do anything to them. Although they couldn't move unhindered in the stormy sea region like Cassio, very few could match them. But now, the undying saints around Valadin had actually died. This was simply unimaginable. Could it be that some near-ancient saint of the human race had set up a trap to ambush them? However, it wasn't particularly interested in this matter. If they're dead, then they're dead. What's the big deal? Don't tell me you don't know what kind of place this is? This is the Mystic Zones, a battlefield where tens of thousands of races fight for hegemony. How can there be no deaths here? After so many years, the number of undying saints of our elemental race that have fallen is not small. You and your brothers won't make a difference. It didn't care much about this matter, because it wasn't very familiar with Valadin's group. It didn't care that a few of them had died. It was as if it was listening to the news. Although everyone was from the elemental race, the problem was that the elemental race was too big. It was a peak race that could rival the human race. Even the saints didn't know how many of them there were. With such numbers, they weren't particularly close to each other. Unless there was a war between the elemental race, they would only take care of themselves. Lord Cassio, I don't wish to beat around the bush with you. Let me tell you directly. I want to take revenge and kill that human race saint. Therefore, I hope that Lord Cassio can take action. Valadin gritted his teeth and stated his goal. Valadin, are you crazy? Cassio looked at Valadin, as though he was looking at a lunatic. Your brother was killed, and you actually want to seek revenge from me? Do you think that I'm your father and can be ordered around by you as you please? Of course, if you have any precious treasures on you that can catch my eye, it's not impossible to ask me for help. Its eyes revealed a greedy look. Although Valadin was an immortal saint, and should not be as rich as him, sometimes he might accidentally obtain some rare universal treasures as a trump card. If these treasures caught his eye, it was not impossible for him to sell them. Perhaps he could take the opportunity to make a fortune. No, I don't have any treasures on me. In order to escape, I left all my treasures on the battlefield. Now I am penniless. Valadin said solemnly. Get lost. Why are you talking about money? It turns out that you're poor. It's a waste of time talking to you. You should be glad that you're a saint of the elemental race. If it wasn't for the rule that we can't kill our own kind, you would have been killed by me dozens of times. Cassio was infuriated when he heard that. He had actually spent so much time talking to this poor fellow. And this fellow was still trying to get him to help him take revenge. He really did not know if he was crazy, or if this fellow was crazy. Cassio, I did not look for you for no reason, nor was I trying to trick you. Valadin said seriously. The ones who killed my brother were a team of human saints. There were a total of 5 of them, and all of them were immortal saints. The strongest among them was at sempiternal advanced stage, while the rest were only at sempiternal primary stage. Moreover, 4 of the sempiternal primary stage saints were already poisoned by our whirling calamity poison, and were half dead. Right now they are just a bunch of defeated soldiers easy to kill. Bullshit, continue bullshit. If it's true, why were you the only one left? Even you could only self-detonate and escape. Cassio did not believe the other party's words at all. Everything I said is the truth. I have recorded the battle earlier. There are video clips here. You can check them, and you'll know if I'm telling the truth or not. Valadin immediately sent the video over. With a beep, Cassio immediately received the other party's video message and clicked to open it. A moment later, his interest was piqued. Interesting. Based on the content of the video, it seems like that sempiternal advanced stage human saint personally made a move and killed all of you within a few breaths. To think that a mere sempiternal advanced stage human saint would possess such combat prowess. This is truly inconceivable. After watching the video, Cassio completely believed Valadin's words. After all, there was no falsehood in the video. Indeed, I also feel that this matter is inconceivable. However, there is one thing that I am certain of. He is definitely only at the sempiternal realm. He has yet to comprehend the laws of space. His cultivation realm is far below yours, Lord Cassio, Valadin said grimly. Of course, I have to admit that this human is definitely a monstrous genius of the human race. His combat prowess far surpasses those of the same cultivation realm. Even with the 5 of us working together, we are still no match for him. However, Lord Cassio is different. As a near-ancient sage who has comprehended the laws of space, your combat prowess far surpasses these immortal saints. As long as Lord Cassio makes a move personally, I believe that you will be able to deal with them easily. After hearing this, Cassio did not say anything. A cunning glint flickered in his eyes. He seemed to be thinking about something. Thinking up to this point, Valadin decided to make the next move. Lord Cassio, this is our only chance. If we miss it, it will be gone forever. When they return to the human race's base, Storm Island, we will no longer be able to kill them. Furthermore, I believe that you also know that the human race has a special reward for killing a human saint. The reward might even surpass that of killing a near-ancient sage. Under normal circumstances, such human geniuses would definitely not be alone. They would be protected by experts. Under normal circumstances, it would be very difficult to kill them. In fact, they might even have many means of escape. At this point, its tone changed. Of course, if you are unwilling, I can look for the help of other lords. I believe that they would be more than happy to lend a hand and obtain the credit for this. If they could kill a human genius, even peak races like the elemental race would receive a huge reward. Such a reward would surpass that of an ordinary immortal saint. It did not believe that Cassio would not be tempted. Wait. As expected, after hearing this, Cassio immediately waved his hand. He felt that he could not allow the other near-ancient sages to snatch the credit for this. He immediately said, "What you said is not unreasonable. Killing a saint of the elemental race is a heinous crime. A human saint like this should be punished by everyone. Where are those humans? I will go and kill them." He was indeed tempted. If the other party had a near-ancient sage, he would definitely not help them. However, the team of human sages only had 4 early immortal realm experts. A late immortal realm human genius was simply too weak to deal with. If he could kill those human saints, it would be like picking up a free credit. There was no reason for him not to accept such a deal. Don't worry, Lord Cassio. I have already kept a close eye on their location. I will definitely not let them escape. Valadin was instantly overjoyed. He could finally ask this near-ancient sage to help him. Chapter 2287. One day later, on an uninhabited island in the stormy sea region. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, ripples appeared in the void, and a few figures appeared in the sky above the uninhabited island. These figures were none other than the ancient sage Cassio and his 6 sempiternal realm pinnacle subordinates. "Come out, Valadin." The ancient sage Cassio shouted into the void. Whoosh. Countless water droplets flew over, and in a few breaths' time, they transformed into a human figure. This person was the water elemental sage Valadin. He hid on this island and recuperated peacefully. Now his body had recovered by more than half. Only the injuries on his soul could not be healed. Even so, he could still unleash 70% to 80% of his previous strength. "Lord Cassio, you're finally here. I've been waiting here for a long time." Seeing Cassio and the others arrive, Valadin was overjoyed. Then, he looked at Cassio with a strange expression. He felt that Cassio was making a mountain out of a molehill. He was only dealing with a few human immortal sages, and 3 of them were already injured. Even if Cassio alone attacked, he could easily deal with those human sages. But now, the other had brought 6 peak of immortal realm subordinates of his. It looked like he had come with all his forces. Wasn't he too cautious or too cowardly? In fact, he had heard of Cassio's reputation. He was known as the most cowardly ancient sage. He was a sage who comprehended the law of space, yet he was extremely cowardly. If he did not have 100% confidence, he would definitely not attack. In fact, staying in the stormy sea region could no longer increase the cultivation of a sage. Yet this guy still shamelessly stayed in the stormy sea region. It was like a max-level player staying in the novice village to bully others. How shameless. Of course, he did not dare to say this out loud. Otherwise, he would definitely suffer. Moreover, Cassio's cautiousness was also beneficial to him. At least, those human sages were doomed. They had no chance of escaping. Cut the crap. Where are those human sages? Immediately report their whereabouts. If they've already returned to Stormy Island, I won't care about this anymore. Cassio waved his hand and stared at Valadin. If those humans had returned to Stormy Island, the base camp of the human clan, or even if they were close, it would not attack them. After all, it did not want to die. It wasn't stupid enough to kill people near the human race's base camp. Don't worry, Lord Cassio. I have been tracking and monitoring their movements for the past day. Valadin immediately said, their spaceship is still too slow. According to their route, it will take them at least 4 more days to return to Stormy Island. Furthermore, they didn't discover the backup plan I left in the space ring. If we chase them now, we will definitely be able to catch them off guard. A sinister look appeared on its face. For the sake of revenge, no matter how cautious it would never be too much. That's good. Lead the way. I'll go kill that bunch of human race sages right now. Cassio was brimming with killing intent. He could not wait to rush up and kill those human race sages to obtain merits. All right. Valadin nodded and naturally obeyed. An immortal immediately took out a spaceship and let Valadin and the rest board. Then, the spaceship quickly started and chased after Xiaoping's group. It wouldn't be long before they found Xiaoping's group and killed all those damned humans. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Another day had passed. At this moment, Waterdrop was getting closer and closer to Stormy Island. They would be able to return in 3 days. Waterdrop Sage and the rest were chatting. Sigh, we were really unlucky this time. I didn't expect to encounter such a powerful enemy. If it wasn't for Brother Fengdu's help, I'm afraid we would all be finished. Waterdrop Sage sighed. Isn't that so? Although we already knew that the mystic zones were extremely dangerous places, and even many immortal sages died every year, we never expected it to be this dangerous. This is only our first mission, yet we already encountered such a life-or-death situation. It seems like we underestimated the danger of the mystic zones. Goldwind Sage also felt the same, recalling the despair and helplessness from before. He wished he had never come to this place. This was the first time he felt so close to death. Yeah, seems like us rookies are still too dangerous in the mystic zones. We don't know all kinds of combat knowledge. Darkflame Sage said. After returning to Stormy Island, we should find a veteran squad to join. Only with some veterans looking after us can we survive in the mystic zones. Otherwise, if we don't die this time, we will definitely die next time. Originally, he didn't want to join other sage squads so soon. He felt that it would be very restrictive. However, after experiencing this life and death crisis, he immediately changed his opinion. In such a dangerous place like the Mystic Zones, without the help of veterans, they would easily die. Their most important task now was to accumulate combat experience in the Mystic Zones. Indeed, I also agree with this suggestion. If we want to survive in the Mystic Zones, we still need the experience of our seniors. We were too arrogant before. After living in other safe regions for too long, we forgot the feeling of danger. Little did we know that there are many ways to kill immortal sages in the Mystic Zones. A mere immortal body is nothing. Indeed. In short, this time, I've completely woken up. It made me clearly understand how dangerous the Mystic Zones are. Raindrop Sage, Darkflame Sage, and Goldwind Sage sighed. They finally came to realize that a place as dangerous as the Mystic Zones was not a place that mere immortal sages could play around. If they were not careful, they would all die. Xiaoping didn't say anything. He also felt that it was time to disband this squad. His strength was much stronger than Raindrop Sage's. They were simply not on the same level. If they encountered a weak enemy, they wouldn't need to do anything. But if they encountered a powerful enemy, they would only be a burden. No matter what, they were not suitable to stay together. Originally, he wanted to continue accumulating some experience. But now, it seemed that there was no need to be too cautious. With his current strength, he was completely confident in surviving in the Mystic Zones. There's an enemy. Suddenly, Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. His body spread out and covered a radius of 40 light years. It was silent and easily integrated into every part of the void. Immediately, waves of spatial ripples appeared in the void. An elemental spaceship emerged from the void. The spaceship emitted a familiar aura. It seemed to be the water elemental sage, Valadin, who had previously escaped. Chapter 2288. Interesting. Including the water elemental saint, there are 7 peak immortal saints, and 1 near ancient era saint, who comprehended the law of space. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes and sat on the sofa. His consciousness blended into the void without a sound. In the Mystic Zones, divine sense exploration was a very important auxiliary ability. This was because it was simply impossible for ordinary detection instruments to explore the Mystic Zones. This was because the signal interference in this place was too serious. There were either strong interference electromagnetic waves, gravitational field disorder, or the blowing of space storms. In order to detect the surrounding environment, the only reliable ability was the cultivator's own divine sense. This kind of power could easily blend into the void, just like the descent of a domain. Once any foreign object invaded the immortal saint's spiritual domain, it would be discovered immediately. Xiaoping's consciousness was too powerful. It could cover a radius of 40 light years. Even a peak near ancient era saint's consciousness range could not compare to his. In fact, his consciousness power was extremely pure and high level. Even a near ancient saint would not be able to detect his consciousness power. Usually, Xiaoping would discover the enemy before they could even get close. And now, Valadin and the others thought that they were being secretive were discovered by him. They dared to come back after escaping. Seems like they are quite confident in dealing with me. Xiaoping thought to himself. However, this strength is indeed incredible. 7 peak immortal realm experts, 1 early ancient immortal realm expert, and 1 late immortal realm expert, are more than enough to deal with 3 early immortal realm experts, and 1 late immortal realm expert. If it was an ordinary immortal saint, they might have succeeded. They would not even have a chance to escape. After all, near ancient era saints were too powerful. But this is good too. I was just worrying about not having a chance to get more points. I didn't expect these elemental saints to come to me personally. That's great. He was delighted. These foreign saints were seeking death. They came to him personally. It seemed like it saved him a lot of effort in searching for enemies. Killing 7 peak immortal saints, and 1 near ancient era saint, would give him at least 450 million points. This was a huge harvest. Ordinary immortal saints could not get this much wealth, even after billions of years. After all, it was too difficult to kill an immortal, or a near ancient era saint, who comprehended the law of space. If he was not careful, the other party might escape. But how did they know our whereabouts? The water drop doesn't have any pattern. And I didn't sense any aura of that elemental saint. Could it have left some imprint on me? Xiaoping's eyes flashed. With a thought, his consciousness immediately penetrated into the 5 interspatial rings he had obtained previously. These were all obtained from the elemental race's sages. One of them came from the immortal saint of the water elemental race. Rumble, at that moment, he immediately sensed that there seemed to be several arcane treasures within the space ring that contained the immortal saint's soul imprint. He could vaguely sense a strange spiritual connection with the outside world. So that's how it is. No wonder you know the whereabouts of the water drop. It turns out that the space ring contains the elemental saint's treasure. The treasure also contains the saint's soul imprint. With this soul imprint, you can easily sense it even if it's far away. Xiaoping came to a sudden realization. He also understood the means of the elemental race saint. It was no wonder that he had not discovered the enemy's whereabouts before. Only when the enemy was close to him would the enemy reveal some clues. This was because the range of the soul imprint far exceeded the range of the divine sense. However, the divine sense was a range, while the soul imprint was only a point. It could only be communicated with the mind, and barely know the specific location. He couldn't help but be vigilant. It seemed that he would have to be even more careful in the mystic zones. If the other party left any hidden traps behind, he might not even know how he died. Xiao xiao xiao. At this moment, hundreds and thousands of beams of light suddenly shot out from the void, seemingly tearing the void apart as they bombarded the water drop. Damn it! Enemy attack! It's an enemy attack! Quick, get out of the dripping water! Damn it, who is it? Raindrop Sage, Dark Flame Sage, and Goldwind Sage, who were chatting idly, immediately felt a fatal killing intent. They made a prompt decision, and immediately flew out of the raindrop. Xiaoping also followed them. With a few thuds, the beams of light became extremely terrifying. They seemed to contain the power of the space law, and instantly pierced through the raindrop. It was almost torn apart. Damn it! Who dares to destroy my raindrop? Seeing the damaged water drop, the raindrop sage hurriedly put the spaceship away. He was in great pain, because the repair cost of the spaceship was very high. Previously, it hadn't been damaged by the 5 immortal sages, but now it was damaged. He was furious. Damn it, it's the elemental race saint. It's the water elemental race saint who escaped earlier. Goldwind Sage was very sharp. He immediately sensed the figures walking out from the void. One of them was the water elemental race saint Valadin. This guy was actually standing side by side with the 6 peak immortal race saints. He had an arrogant and mocking expression on his face, as if his plot had succeeded. Damn it, this is troublesome. The other party has found helpers, and is here for revenge. Dark Flame Saint's expression turned gloomy. He knew that the other party must have something to rely on, if he dared to come again. If he wasn't confident, he wouldn't dare to chase after them for revenge. He felt the terrifying killing intent in the void. It was as if there was an ambush from all sides. Revenge? It was beaten half to death by Brother Fengdu, and had to self-destruct to escape. Yet it still dares to come for revenge. Is it crazy? Goldwind Sage felt that it was unbelievable. Hearing this, Valadin's expression turned ugly. Human, don't be arrogant. This time, I've found helpers from the elemental race. You will die for sure. The whirling calamity poison in your bodies has been cured. Do you have the antidote? But it's useless. Even if the poison is cured, you will still die. Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, another figure walked out from the void. It was incomparably majestic. It was over 10 meters tall, and looked like a god. It was surrounded by a terrifying spatial aura, as if thousands of layers of space had appeared on the surface of its body. It seemed to have appeared in a different dimension. It was clearly in this universe, but its true body couldn't be captured. It's over. This is a near-ancient saint. A near-ancient saint who comprehended the spatial law. Raindrop Sage, Goldwind Sage, and Dark Flame Saint's faces turned ashen. Chapter 2289. Near-Ancient Saint. These 4 words were like a mountain lying in the depths of the hearts of the Raindrop Saint, Dark Flame Saint, and Goldwind Saint, making it hard for them to breathe. Although Undying Saints and Near-Ancient Saints were only one realm apart, the difference in power was like heaven and earth. They weren't even on the same level. In terms of magic power, a Near-Ancient Saint could contend against 100 Undying Saints. Not to mention, Near-Ancient Saints comprehended the space law, and could use it to traverse thousands of layers of space with a thought. One attack could reach the enemy's main body through thousands of layers of space. No matter how many Undying Saints there were, they wouldn't be able to resist such power. After all, Undying saints couldn't even reach the main body of a near-ancient saint. So how could they kill him? Therefore, it wasn't hard to imagine their despair after hearing that a near-ancient saint had appeared here. With such an expert around, they couldn't escape or live. It's all over now. Damn, why are we so unlucky? 5 peak undying saints were fine, but now a near-ancient saint has appeared. Even the heavens want us to die. I heard that some old people in the stormy sea region might not encounter a near-ancient saint even once in thousands of years. We've just left and already encountered one. Is there any justice in this world? With a near-ancient saint here, we can't beat him. We can only run. The 4 of us should scatter and escape. That's our only hope. Raindrop Saint, Dark Flame Saint, and Goldwind Saint's faces were ashen. They never thought that they would be this unlucky. Even a near-ancient saint had appeared. They didn't want to fight back, so they could only escape. If one of them could escape, the other would live. Xiaoping's expression was still calm as he looked at the elemental saints. Lord Cassio. Seeing Cassio appear, Valadin and the other undying saints lowered their heads to show respect. Human, I'm the ice elemental race's near-ancient saint Cassio. Cassio looked down at Xiaoping's group as if he was looking at ants. You should be honored to have the chance to die in my hands. This is your luck accumulated over countless years. You can struggle as much as you want, but it's my loss if one of you can survive. Rumble. As soon as it finished speaking, an extremely terrifying chill emanated from its body, covering a radius of hundreds of millions of kilometers. In an instant, everything within a radius of hundreds of millions of kilometers was frozen. It was as if even space itself had been frozen. This domain had turned into a world of ice, and everything was snow white. This chill contained the power of the laws of space, and even space could not escape the binding and freezing of the cold chi. Raindrop Saint, Dark Flame Saint, and Goldwind Saint immediately felt a bone-piercing cold. Even their thoughts seemed to have become sluggish, and the blood in their bodies was about to freeze. Only at this moment did they feel the power of a near-ancient saint. This was the power of someone who had comprehended the law of space. His every move seemed to be able to mobilize the power of the law of the universe. It was impossible to resist. So this is the power of a saint from ancient times. He's too powerful. In the distance, Valadin was also amazed. Although he had previously looked down on Cassio for being as timid as a mouse, he felt that it was a disgrace to the reputation of a saint in the near-ancient era to be so cautious. However, after sensing Cassio's power, he immediately abandoned such thoughts. This was the power of the laws that far surpassed the immortal realm. If Cassio wanted to, even he would be killed here. This was the difference between heaven and earth. Stupid humans die under the ice. Cassio's expression was ferocious. He wanted to mobilize all his power to attack the Raindrop Saint and the others. Fight him to the death. So what if he's a near-ancient saint? He has to pay the price if he wants to kill us. Fight. Even if we die, we have to teach him a lesson. The Raindrop Saint, Dark Flame Saint, and Goldwind Saint roared. They were not willing to die like this. Even if they died, they had to show their bravery as saints of the human race. Valadin and the others' expressions were ferocious. They followed behind Cassio, ready to support him at any time. They sealed the void, not giving the human saints a chance to escape. The battle between the two sides was on the verge of breaking out. At this moment, an extremely terrifying aura was transmitted from the void. This aura made the Raindrop Saint shudder in fear, and he couldn't help but turn around to look. Not only the Raindrop Saint and the others, even Valadin, Cassio, and the other saints looked over. They also felt a huge threat. At this moment, Xiaoping took out a pearl. This was the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers that had been upgraded to a high-grade saint artifact. Suppress! With a thought, Xiaoping threw the bead out. Immediately, the pearl rotated in the void. A huge and vast formation emerged from its body, covering a radius of hundreds of millions of kilometers. This was the map of mountains and rivers from the space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. In an instant, the void that spanned hundreds of millions of miles underwent earth-shattering changes. It was as if the void was surging. One mountain after another rose from the ground. One river after another flowed through the void, and one tree after another, and weeds grew from the depths of the void. It was as if the starry sky of the universe had turned into a real world. It was as if a world had enveloped the area, forming a powerful spatial barrier in the surroundings. No one, not even a near-ancient saint, could escape from the map of mountains and rivers. They were like turtles in a jar. High-grade saint artifact. Brother Fengdu actually has a high-grade saint artifact. The raindrop saint, the dark flame saint, and the goldwind saint could not help but widen their eyes. They did not expect Xiaoping to have such a powerful artifact. After all, it was already not bad for an ordinary immortal saint to have a low-grade saint artifact. If they came from a powerful faction, or had a fortuitous encounter, they might be able to get a mid-grade saint artifact. However, it was impossible for them to get a high-grade saint artifact. The difference in value was countless times. They could clearly feel the tyrannical formation diagram coming down from the bead and suppressing the void. Such a magical treasure was at least a high-grade divine artifact, and such power could even contend with a saint that was near ancient times. Damn it, this human actually has a high-grade saint artifact. How is this possible? Why would a human saint with such a powerful background appear in such a barren place like the Stormy Sea region? The near-ancient Saint Cassio's expression was extremely ugly. He had been cautious all his life and never acted rashly. He only did things that he was confident in. He did not even deal with troublesome opponents. Only by keeping a low profile could he survive until now. However, after keeping a low profile for so long and peacefully developing to this point, he was now so unlucky that he had kicked an iron plate. What kind of joke was this? Chapter 2290. Damn it, this is a high-grade sacred artifact. It contains powerful laws and conceals space. Even a near-ancient sage would not be able to escape from this formation in a short period of time. Valadin felt a fatal sense of danger. Moreover, this formation seems to have appeared just to seal space and prevent us elemental sages from escaping. Damn it! How can this human be so arrogant to this extent? He took out a high-grade sacred artifact just to seal our escape route. Is he so confident that he can kill us? He clenched his fists tightly, as if he could feel the boundless confidence of this human sage. Such confidence could not have come from nowhere, nor could it be that the human in front of him was acting silly. None of the existences that could ascend to the undying sage stage were stupid. Since the other party dared to do such a thing, it proved that he had absolute confidence. Their mission this time around was really dangerous. They might have really kicked an iron plate. This human is so arrogant. Looks like he really does have some ability. I cannot take the risk. I have to ask for help. I have to ask the nearby comrades to come and kill this human. Cassio immediately sent out a distress signal. Fuck. Valadin also sensed Cassio's distress signal. He was completely dumbfounded. He could not believe that Cassio would be so cowardly. The other party was clearly just a sempiternal advanced stage sage. All he took out was a high-grade sacred artifact. As a near-ancient sage, Cassio should not be too afraid of him. It was like an 8-year-old child wielding a sharp saber to fight against an adult. It might seem threatening, but that was all. However, this fellow actually sent out a distress signal when there was only a hint of threat. Just how thick-skinned must a near-ancient sage be to do something like this? After all, as a near-ancient sage, it was extremely embarrassing for him to be scared by a sempiternal sage to the point of asking for help from his own race and comrades. It was a great humiliation. If word got out, he would become the laughingstock of the elemental race. If it was him, he would rather die than ask for help. However, this Cassio did such a humiliating thing without hesitation. He was extremely shameless. What an idiot. Cassio could also see Valadin's disdain, but it didn't take it to heart. Being cautious was its philosophy of survival. The undying saints and geniuses of the same generation, as it had all fallen in the mystic zones. Only a mediocre genius like it could survive until now by relying on its cautiousness and planning step by step. It even managed to ascend to the near-ancient saint realm. As for dignity, it was nothing compared to his own life. Only those shameless people could survive longer on the battlefield, All right, under the suppression of the stately painting, none of you can escape. Now all of you can die. Xiaoping calmly looked at Cassio and the other saints. Terrifying killing intent emanated from his body, permeating through every corner of the void. Even space was unable to withstand such bone-piercing killing intent, as though the entire void had been frozen. You can't escape? Little human, who do you think you are? You think you can act arrogantly here just because you have a high-grade saint artifact? Simply a fool's dream. We near ancient saints are all here. How arrogant can a mere undying saint like you be? Attack, kill him and tear him into pieces. Let's see what other tricks he has up his sleeve. On the other hand, Cassio's 6 sempiternal realm sages of the elemental tribe were thoroughly enraged by Xiaoping's words. Even though the human had a saint high-tier artifact on him that could significantly boost his fighting prowess, they still had the advantage in numbers. Moreover, they had the support of a near-ancient saint, which gave them an absolute advantage. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, the 6 immortal saints of the elemental race attacked from all directions. One after another, their mental domains suppressed the void. Violent elemental energy exploded, attempting to crush Xiaoping into pieces. Not bad, you have guts. However, this is also a last-ditch struggle. Xiaoping grabbed with his hand, and immediately took out a treasure he had obtained from hell, the morning staff. The moment the morning staff appeared, a bone-chilling coldness from hell permeated the boundless void. At the same time, ghostly wails and wolf howls could be heard, causing every corner of the void to tremble. It was as if there were billions of demons wailing, howling and screaming at this moment. It was chilling. Vaguely, there seemed to be countless demons, ghosts and devils surging out from behind him. It was as if the gates of hell had opened in the depths of the void. His body emitted a terrifying aura of the god of the underworld. Kill. Xiaoping gripped the morning staff tightly and showed no mercy. He performed the first move of the 5 subduing techniques, dizziness. Dong. He circulated the enormous magic power in his body and communicated with the power of hell in the morning staff. Then he struck at the void. Immediately, ripples that could be seen by the naked eye surged out from the morning staff. Layers of terrifying consciousness shockwaves were transmitted from the morning staff. They were like ocean waves, constantly beating the void. Layers of shockwaves overlapped and seemed to form millions of terrifying resonance. Buzz buzz buzz, with just one strike, the 6 sempiternal saints of the elemental race were immediately stunned. It was as if they had been struck by lightning. Their souls were hit hard. Their souls could not withstand such strange soul fluctuations. These sound waves seemed to form the patterns of the laws of sound waves, crushing over and causing the universe to shake and resonate. Then they were directly knocked unconscious. White balls appeared in their eyes, and their sea of consciousness was blank. They had no idea what state they were in. It was as if they had become idiots. Bang! 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 Xiaoping's figure flashed, and he struck again with the morning staff. This time, he struck the heads of the 6 sempiternal saints. Immediately, their heads were smashed like watermelons. At the same time, an invisible and strange power was transmitted into the depths of their souls. Their souls were also shattered. Even the elemental cores in their bodies were shattered. Just like that, the 6 sempiternal saints of the elemental race were killed by the morning staff. They could not fight back at all. As expected of the morning staff, it's really powerful. Xiaoping was very satisfied with the endless power of the morning staff. A single strike from the morning staff was unstoppable. If one's consciousness was not strong enough, one strike could knock them unconscious. Then these sempiternal saints could not fight back at all. Beep! Beep! At this time Corinne's voice was heard. Haha, Xiaoping's 6 sempiternal saints are dead. One death is worth 50 million points. Now that you've killed 6, you've gained 300 million points. You've made a huge profit. You've become rich overnight. It excitedly sent a message to the universe virtual network. Don't worry, master. Just kill them. With the mountain river pearl suppressing the void, these sempiternal saints will definitely not be able to escape. The green ox felt that after it advanced to a high-grade sage artifact, it was a little invincible. Even the sempiternal saints of the near-ancient era could not escape the suppression of its mountain river map. Chapter 2291. Holy crap! What kind of artifact is that? How could it kill 6 peak immortal saints with one strike? Seeing the 6 peak immortal saints die, Cassio was scared to death, his face ashen. Even he couldn't kill 6 immortal saints in a blink of an eye. It wasn't hard to imagine that this bastard was not just an immortal saint. He might even be a near-ancient saint who had hidden his cultivation. Otherwise, there was no way to explain how this kid could have such powerful fighting power. I've kicked an iron plate. This time, I've really kicked an iron plate. Help, I must ask for help. As long as I can hold on until my allies and comrades come, I have a chance to live. Cassio gritted his teeth, his face ferocious. He frantically sent out signals for help because he could feel the aura of death from Xiaoping. At this moment, his little life seemed frozen. Even 6 peak immortal saints were killed with one strike. With his current strength, he didn't have much hope, even if he was a near-ancient saint who had comprehended the space principle. After all, the difference was the difference. Strength was strength. It couldn't be faked. In the Stormy Sea region, there were many elemental saints and their vassal races. They were scattered in every corner of the sea, competing with other races. Once he called for help, these elemental saints and their vassal races saints would come. As long as he could hold on until his allies arrived, he would have a chance to live. In a short time, this kind of call for help spread to every corner of the Stormy Sea region. All the elemental saints and vassal races saints received this message. What? An immortal saint with a high-grade sacred artifact and a mysterious treasure killed 6 peak immortal saints in a few breaths? He even scared a near-ancient saint into asking for help? Many saints of the elemental race were shocked when they heard the news. My God, what kind of immortal saint is that? How can he be so terrifying? He actually forced a near-ancient saint to send out a call for help. Seems like that human immortal saint is really something. How about it? Should we go and save them? Save my ass. How can we save them? We aren't even near-ancient saints. If we go there, we'll just die. That's right. With our strength, we'll just die. Maybe we'll be killed by that human saint if we get close. Indeed. Moreover, even if we, the elemental race, asked for help, didn't the human race's saint ask for help? If we rush there, it will definitely be a war between the humans and the elemental race. At that time, there will be countless casualties. If I can kill that human genius, I'm sure I'll be rewarded handsomely. Unfortunately, it's too dangerous. His strength is frighteningly strong. If I go, I'm afraid I'll be killed. How could I possibly get a reward? Cassio can only be considered unlucky, actually encountering such a monster human. An undying killing ancient, truly inconceivable. After receiving the news, many elemental sages discussed among themselves. However, they only discussed for a while, and did not plan to rescue Cassio. After all, that human race monster could kill 6 undying sages in a few breaths of time, and scare a near-ancient sage into asking for help. Such strength was enough to scare most undying sages. If there was a chance to rescue them, they wouldn't mind doing it, but the danger was too great. Going there would be suicide, and they had the right to refuse such a suicide mission. Moreover, this was the Mystic Zone, a place where tens of thousands of races fought for hegemony. How could there be no deaths? Cassio could only blame his bad luck for encountering such a monster of the human race. Even so, a few near-ancient sages from the elemental race rushed over. Haha, that coward Cassio actually asked for help. That brat always stays in a safe place like the Stormy Sea region to bully the undying sages. Never thought he would ask for help one day. Being forced to this extent, how interesting. Regardless of whether Cassio is a coward or not, he is still a near-ancient sage of our elemental race, an important combat power. He can't die in the hands of the human race like this. We must save him. That's right. Moreover, killing an ancient sage as an undying, this strength is definitely a famous monster of the human race. If we can kill him now, we'll definitely be able to heavily injure a portion of the human race's strength and obtain a special reward from the race. Let's speed up. Or else I'm afraid Cassio won't be able to hold on. Don't be anxious. No matter how weak Cassio is, he is still a near-ancient sage that comprehended the spatial laws. With his strength, he should be able to hold on for a few days without dying. There's still time. Indeed, resisting and killing are two different concepts. Moreover, Cassio has many trump cards, so he shouldn't die so easily. Some near-ancient sages of the elemental race received the news and quickly rushed over. However, they were very far from the place where Cassio was asking for help. Even if they wanted to rush over, it would take a very long time. Now they could only pray that Cassio could hold on for a little longer, at least until they arrived. Master. At this time, the green ox said, "We must kill that near-ancient sage of the elemental race as soon as possible. If I'm not wrong, this guy should have already sent out a distress signal. The other party is a near-ancient sage of the elemental race. And the elemental race is also one of the peak races. They have a huge influence in the Stormy Sea region. If such a distress signal is sent out, it will definitely attract some powerful enemies. Maybe even ancient sages will appear. That's right, we can't delay any longer. If we wait for the elemental race's reinforcements to arrive, then it will be troublesome." Corin nodded. He also rarely agreed with the green ox's opinion. He felt that this war had to be settled quickly, and absolutely couldn't give the elemental race time to wait for reinforcements. "Don't worry, it won't take 3 moves to kill it." Xia Ping's eyes revealed a trace of cold light, his killing intent boiling. Whoosh! In an instant, his figure flashed like lightning, using Kuan Peng steps. His entire body easily blended into the void, silently approaching the near-ancient sage Cassio. What's going on? Why is his speed so fast? Cassio was scared to death. This speed had already surpassed the immortal sage's speed. Even the speed of a near-ancient sage shuttling through space was no more than this. He didn't dare to talk nonsense. He operated the magic power in his body and mobilized the space law. In a breath's time, his body shuttled through thousands of layers of space, trying to avoid Xia Ping's attack. Want to run? Too late. Xia Ping held the morning staff in his hand and once again struck down. Soul subduing 5 techniques. Second technique, delay. With a bang, grayish-white light rays blossomed from the morning staff. They pierced through the void, shuttled through countless layers of space, and silently bombarded Cassio's body. With just one attack, Cassio's entire body seemed to slow down. The surrounding power of laws instantly became chaotic, as if the surrounding void had turned into a swamp vortex, tearing his body apart. Chapter 2292. Oh no, what kind of power is this? Why have my movements slowed down? Cassio was dumbfounded. He could not understand what was happening. It was as if the grayish-white light had interfered with its body, and even its understanding of the spatial laws had undergone a huge change, as if it had been affected by the law of deceleration. The space that had merged with his body seemed to have turned into a swamp. His body had fallen into the swamp, and he could not penetrate through the void quickly. It's over. It's over. At this moment, Cassio's heart was filled with endless despair. He could feel the terrifying killing intent coming from the depths of the void. It seemed to have enveloped his entire body. It was obvious that the human race sage had already locked onto his soul. There was nowhere for him to hide. Damn it. You want to kill me, Cassio? Dream on. Even if I die, I will drag someone down with me. Cassio's eyes were filled with madness after being forced into a corner. Even a rabbit would bite when it was cornered, let alone a near-ancient sage like him. He was just being cautious. He was not as timid as a mouse. If he needed to put his life on the line, he would put his life on the line. He would not lose to anyone in terms of courage. Absolute zero icebound world. Cassio shouted angrily. He operated the spatial laws in his body. A terrifying chill immediately spread out from his body and formed a huge domain world. Boom! Immediately, the area within a radius of 1,000,000 miles was enveloped by this white chill. The entire void was frozen. It seemed as if the starry sky was distorted by this power. Any living creature that entered this icebound domain would be frozen. Not only his magic power, But his body would also be unable to withstand such a terrifying chill. Even his soul would be frozen. So powerful. The Raindrop Sage, the Dark Flame Sage, and the Goldwind Sage could also feel how powerful this icebound domain was. If they were to get close to it, they would probably be frozen into ice sculptures and sealed for eternity. Putting your life on the line? Foolish. This is just a last-ditch struggle. Die. Xia Ping grabbed with his hand and took out the Hell Spear. A tyrannical power of hell surged out from the depths of the spear. Countless characters of hell twisted in the void, seemingly forming pieces of supreme scriptures. Vaguely, a gate of hell appeared behind him. It seemed as if it was connected to the world of hell. Hell Demon suppressing spear fourth move slaughter. As soon as the spear shot out, a black light erupted from the depths of the spear. This black light seemed to be condensed from the laws of hell. It exuded the aura of death, destruction, nirvana, chaos, and so on. The moment it appeared, it seemed to pierce through the void and tear it apart. It silently blasted a huge black hole in the void, and an abyss appeared. Xiao. This beam of black light flashed and traversed countless layers of space. It was indestructible. It was as if this beam of black light was the only thing left in the entire universe. It was as if at this moment, all the laws of the universe had stopped operating. Everything had stopped. The Raindrop Sage and the others widened their eyes. They could no longer see anything else. All they saw was a black light flashing across the void and arriving beside Cassio. No, no, no! Cassio shrieked. He could only watch on helplessly, because the speed of the black light was simply too fast. So fast that his body couldn't even react in time. In the next second, its forehead was pierced through, and its entire body was split into two halves by this force. It split open from the middle, and all the parts of its body were sent flying, breaking into pieces. At the same time, a wave of destructive power erupted from its body. Its elemental core and its soul were completely destroyed at this moment. Near Ancient Sage Cassio was dead. Weak, too weak. Xia Ping shook his head. He felt that killing a Near Ancient Sage was nothing special. When he was only at the Sempiternal Intermediate stage, he had killed a Near Ancient Sage. Now that he had advanced to the Sempiternal Advanced stage, his magic power had more than doubled. Even with his own magic power, he could suppress an ordinary Near Ancient Sage. At the same time, he had a powerful magic treasure like the Hell Spear. With a swing of the spear, it could completely ignore space and was indestructible. The Near Ancient Sage could not withstand it at all. Facing Xia Ping, whose magic power, soul power, and magic treasures were all above that of an ordinary Near Ancient Sage, how could Cassio, a Near Ancient Sage, block it? He could not block it at all. Therefore, with the swing of the spear, he was stabbed to death. Consider yourself lucky to be able to die under the Hell Spear. Xia Ping looked at the dead Cassio indifferently. Then, he grabbed with his hand and kept Cassio's corpse. As a Near Ancient Sage, its corpse was also of great value and should not be wasted. He also took away the space ring and various treasures that it left behind after its death. He naturally would not let go of the corpses of the 6 immortal sages that he had killed and the treasures they left behind. Someone is still alive? Xia Ping turned around and immediately saw the water elemental sage, Valadin, who was still alive. At this moment, Valadin looked at Xia Ping in despair and anger. He knew that he could not escape this time, and he would not be as lucky as last time. After all, even a Near Ancient Sage Cassio had died in the hands of this human. How could he escape? Moreover, the surrounding void had been completely sealed by a high-grade sacred artifact. He could not escape either. Human, you've gone too far. I, Valadin, will fight it out with you. It's a great reward to be able to drag a human genius like you down with me. Remember, this is all because of you. Valadin shouted angrily. In his despair, he wanted to self-destruct and perish together with Xia Ping. However, before he could do anything, another black beam of light blasted over, piercing through the sky and passing through countless layers of space. Boom! The Hell Spear flew over and instantly pierced through Valadin's head, nailing him to death in the void of the universe. This. Valadin's eyes widened, and his body trembled. He did not expect this human to attack so quickly. Before he could completely attack, the spear had already blasted over and nailed him to death in midair. He could feel the terrifying aura of destruction coming from the depths of this dark golden spear. With a boom, this dark golden spear shook slightly, and his soul was instantly destroyed and turned into powder. At this moment, the water elemental sage Valadin was also dead. Still trying to self-destruct? Do you think I didn't guard against this move of yours? I'll shatter your true spirit with one move. Let's see how you can self-destruct then. Xiaoping shook his head, waved his hand, and kept Valadin's corpse. As for the treasures on Valadin's body, he did not have any. After self-destructing for the first time, he became a pauper, and all his treasures were left behind. Chapter 2293. Haha Xiaoping, 450 million points. After killing these elemental sages, you have obtained 450 million points. How many good items can you exchange for with these points in the sacred palace? Corinne was very excited. Including the 4 peak immortal sages he had killed, Xiaoping had obtained 650 million points. Ordinary sages might not be able to obtain such points even after spending billions of years in the mystic zones. After all, not everyone had the power to kill sages of the same level. I'm rich, I'm really rich. The mystic zones are really a good place to get rich. Azurox was also very excited. He was already calculating what treasures he could exchange for to strengthen the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. If he could upgrade the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers to a Peerless Sage artifact, his power would increase 10-fold, or even 100-fold. It would be like ascending to the heavens in a single bound. My God, they're dead. They're all dead. Not a single one was spared. Raindrop Sage looked at Xiaoping in disbelief. He had thought that he would definitely die after encountering so many powerful enemies. He would not even have the chance to escape. However, he did not expect that not only were they not dead, but the elemental sages had also been killed. It's fine if he could kill immortal sages, but now he can even kill near ancient sages. This kind of strength is simply unimaginable. Goldwind Sage was also dumbfounded. Being able to kill sages of the same level proved that they had extremely powerful battle prowess and were invincible among the same level. The problem was that even near ancient sages could be killed. This was beyond his imagination. This kind of strength is truly invincible. Darkflame Sage was also shocked. It was true that Xiaoping might have used treasures to kill near ancient sages, but the problem was that without sufficient strength, treasures would not be able to kill the enemy. It was like a 3-year-old holding a sword that could cut through iron as if it was mud. How could it kill a strong adult man? It could only be said that Xiaoping's strength far surpassed the immortal sages. He had reached an unimaginable realm. What you want to say can wait. Let's run first. It won't be long before the enemy's reinforcements arrive. With a whoosh, Xiaoping arrived beside Raindrop Sage and the others. You're right. We have to run quickly. Hearing this, the Raindrop Sage immediately came to a realization. He knew that the elemental race's sages must have rescued the reinforcements. If they were delayed, the elemental race's sages might catch up to them. He immediately took out the water drop and had Dark Flame Saint, Goldwind Saint, and Xiaoping board the ship. The ship turned into a beam of light and left the scene at top speed. Meanwhile, on the other side, the sages of the elemental tribe, who were planning to head over to support Cassio, received the news of their deaths one after another. What? Cassio and the others are dead. None of them are alive. When some of the elemental sages received the news, they were extremely shocked. One by one, they stopped their rescue. Damn it! What happened? Even if Cassio was a fake and barely reached the level of a near-ancient saint, he was still a near-ancient saint who had comprehended the law of space. He was not that easy to kill. How long has it been since he died? Some of the elemental saints found it hard to believe. They originally thought that with Cassio's strength, he could at least hold on for a few days. They could take advantage of this time to rush to the battlefield and rescue Cassio. However, they didn't expect that they would receive the news of Cassio's death not long after they set off. This was too fast. It didn't make sense at all. 7 peak immortal sages and 1 near-ancient realm sage were killed in just 1 hour. What's the background of that human sage, Feng Du? Is he really just a late immortal realm sage? Impossible. Maybe the information was wrong. Cassio's enemy might not only be a late immortal sage. There might be a near-ancient sage hiding in the dark. Otherwise, how could he kill Cassio so quickly? The problem is that Cassio isn't a fool. If the opponent really has a near-ancient sage, he definitely wouldn't dare to fight. He would definitely run away without saying a word. Don't doubt his sensitivity to danger. Could it be that the human sage is really that terrifying? An immortal killing a near-ancient sage? Unbelievable. The elemental sages discussed among themselves. They were completely shocked by this news. There hadn't been a near-ancient sage dying in the Stormy Sea region for many years. Now one had actually fallen. Moreover, it was killed by an immortal sage. This kind of news was unimaginable even in the entire history of the universe. This kind of achievement reminds me of a person who caused a commotion recently. That's the human race's new immortal sage, Xia Ping. An elemental sage's eyes flashed with a cold light. Impossible. An elemental sage shook his head. That kid is indeed powerful. He ascended to immortal in just a few decades. The problem is that he's just an early immortal. How could he have the strength to kill a near-ancient sage? No matter how monstrous he is, there has to be a limit. How is it impossible? He ascended to immortal in such a short time. Who can deny that he doesn't have the strength to kill a near-ancient sage? That sage retorted. Indeed, we can't deny it, but this is too inconceivable. That's right. A little guy who just entered immortal can kill a near-ancient sage. I won't believe this. That's right. Plus, the human race is huge. It's not strange for an immortal to occasionally appear. It's impossible that there are only human geniuses like Xia Ping. That's not unreasonable. Besides, I heard that apart from Xia Ping, there's also a human wanted criminal called Wu Wudi. He's also an extremely terrifying person. He even has Gaia by his side as his helper and pet. Damn, why are the human race so monstrous? There are actually 3 such monsters. Xia Ping, Wu Wudi, and now there's Feng Du. There's no end to it. Regardless of whether Feng Du is the human race's Xia Ping or not, he's an extremely dangerous human monster. We must take him seriously. We can't let another Dark North sage appear. That's right. If the human race gets another invincible sage, how can we, the elemental race, have a foothold in the future? We can't let this happen. Report to the race's elder. Immediately report this Feng Du's name, and list him as a priority target to be killed. Many of the elemental sages reached a consensus. Regardless of whether this Feng Du sage was the legendary human Xia Ping or not, this person was an extremely dangerous human monster. He must be eliminated as soon as possible. They quickly returned. After all, Cassio and the others were dead. Even if they went to that place, it would be useless. If they continued to go there stupidly, they might fall into the human race's trap and be wiped out. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.